The town of Farmington. Respecting history, planning the future.
I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to stand, please, to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If anyone would like to address the council, please come to the microphone and just give your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to speak. Is there any public comment? Okay. We will now hear the public hearing from Paula Ray.
A public hearing will be held on Tuesday, February 23rd, 2016, at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers on the Town Manager's proposed 5-year capital improvement plan, dated Farmington, Connecticut, this 22nd day of February 2016. Kathleen A. Egan, Town Manager.
Good evening. Tonight I will be presenting the 2016-17 through 2020-21 Capital Improvement Program. The Capital Improvement Plan, CIP, is a planning document by which the town of Farmington plans for improvements it will undertake over the next 5 years. In order for a project to qualify as a capital improvement, the cost of the item or the project should be at least $25,000, and the improvement should have a useful life of at least 5 years. Equipment or projects which cost less than $25,000 or which have a useful life of less than 5 years do not qualify as a capital improvement and should be included as an expense in the operating budget. Although a capital improvement may have a recurring or ongoing operating expense related to its purchase or construction, that expense is not included in the CIP but is included in the operating budget. Projects in the CIP may be funded from a variety of sources: appropriations, bonding, a state or federal grant, or other sources of funds. Highlights of the Town of Farmington's capital improvement policy are as follows. The town will strive to maintain a high reliance on pay-as-you-go financing for its capital improvements. The town's objective will be to contribute to the capital improvement plan at least 2.5% of the annual general fund revenues allocated to the operating budget. The capital improvement plan calls for an expenditure of $38,210,230 over the next 5 years. Of this amount, $15,485,230 is proposed to be funded through appropriations from the general fund. Proposed bonding authorizations total $17,250,000, and other appropriations total $5,475,000. Fiscal year 16-17 of the capital improvement plan calls for the expenditure of $8,911,900. Of this amount, $3,236,900 is proposed to be funded through the appropriations from the general fund. Bonding authorizations totaling $4,600,000 are also proposed. Other appropriations totaling $1,075,000 are planned for the Water Pollution Control Fund and grant funds. The town's capital improvement policy and the town's strategic plan were the policy guidelines that were at the forefront when formulating the CIP, while focusing the appropriations into 3 main funding themes. These themes are equipment, infrastructure, maintenance improvements, technology and communication initiatives, and building improvements and renovations. Equipment, infrastructure, maintenance improvement summary. Last year, we made progress in this area, but significant equipment, infrastructure, and maintenance improvements are still needed throughout town. Each department has equipment replacement plans that are funded in the CIP. This plan supports replacement of equipment throughout town. This critical equipment keeps our volunteer firefighters safe when responding to calls for service. It allows our roads to be plowed during winter emergencies. It also keeps our parks and golf course looking clean and ready to play during the warm weather months. Equipment replacement ensures the town's ability to offer high-quality services to our residents and businesses. The capital improvement plan proposes to fund equipment purchases for the replacement of turnout gear, self-contained breathing apparatuses packs for the fire department, and speed sign trailers for the police department. Equipment purchases also include a large dump truck, a road sweeper, a truck lift replacement, and playground equipment to replace the existing playscape at Tungus Mead Park in the Public Works Department. This proposed capital plan continues to fund the town's road reconstruction and miscellaneous sidewalk repairs. In the 21st century, a town's technology infrastructure must be maintained. It must keep up with the rapidly changing world of technology as well as the expectations of residents and businesses. Townwide technology improvements as well as improvements specific to the police department, town clerk, public works, and administration are proposed in this capital improvement plan. The capital improvement plan will provide funds to the police department to replace video cameras, alarm monitoring hardware and software, and portable radios. Funds will also replace the police department and senior center phone system to make them compatible with the town hall. This telephone system will strengthen the communication between the departments and improve accessibility. Technology is constantly evolving, and the proposed capital improvement plan will also provide routine technology improvements to the town hall, allowing all departments to deliver public goods and services effectively and efficiently. The town clerk's office will continue the land record reindexing project with its proposed funding. The funds in this budget will allow for 1996 through 1971's records to be digitized and available in the town clerk's vault and on the internet. The town is making progress updating town-owned buildings and planning for large-scale renovations in the future. Building improvements and renovations are a large piece of this proposed capital improvement plan. Building improvements include updates to the interior and exterior of Town Hall, providing a new clubhouse roof, and completing electrical and structural code updates to Westwood's Golf Course Maintenance Building. The Town Manager's Office has allocated additional funds for the professional services to plan and develop the Farmington High School building design and renovations. I will now summarize the first year of proposed bonding proposed for a May budget referendum. 2016-17 bonding. The first year of the capital plan proposes two bonding items. The first item is very similar to the bond that was passed several years ago for road reconstruction and paving. A bond appropriation of $4 million is proposed and would include road reconstruction and paving along with miscellaneous drainage projects. This funding will allow the town to pave and reconstruct approximately 10 miles of town roads. The second bonding question I am proposing is the replacement of Engine 3 at Southwest Fire Station. A bond appropriation of $600,000 is proposed. I will now summarize the department request for the first year of the capital improvement plan. Board of Education. I am recommending $960,000.
Yes.
Too many numbers. $961,900 in the Board of Education projects. Please note that this is the Board of Education's top 6 priorities. The entire Board of Education capital budget request was included in the agenda packet. I am recommending $160,000 in the engineering department for the town's portion of the upcoming New Britain Avenue intersection road project and funds related to environmental compliance throughout town. I am recommending $560,000 in the highway department that includes various equipment replacements. I am recommending $205,000 in the fire department, which includes the replacement of necessary gear and painting and carpeting at the various fire stations. I am recommending $135,000 for the police department. This includes significant technology improvements and 2 speed sign trailers. I am recommending $1,090,000 in the town manager's office. This includes significant technology improvements and town hall improvements. It also includes $400,000 for professional services to plan and develop the Farmington High School building design. I'm recommending $25,000 in the community and recreation for exercise equipment at the senior and community center. I am recommending $100,000 at Westwood's Golf Course that includes equipment replacement and maintenance and building improvements. In the other appropriations includes grant funds for construction of new sidewalks throughout town, as well as the repair of the front sidewalk walkway at the senior and community center. I'm recommending $1 million in improvements for the treatment plant funded through the WPCA budget. The proposed general fund appropriation to support the capital improvements is $3,236,900, which is 3.21% of projected annual general fund revenues allocated to the operating budget. Based on the town's capital improvement policy, the town's objective is to contribute at least 2.5% of the annual general fund revenues allocated to the operating budget. The proposed capital budget recommends funding above the policy limit in order to take advantage of projected flat debt service payments in fiscal year 16-17. Over the past few years, debt service payments have been reduced or have been flat. This reduction will be temporary, as we will soon be increasing the town's outstanding debt to finance the upgrade of the wastewater treatment facility. Since the reduction is expected to be short-term, I am recommending that we use these funds to increase the capital budget to fund improvement projects on a non-recurring nature. In the following years, when the town's debt service increases, we will then be able to move these funds back to the debt service budget to help mitigate the impact of the tax rate. This capital budget will allow us to make significant headway to meet the town's capital improvement needs, especially in the areas of technology, infrastructure, maintenance, and equipment purchases, and building improvements and renovations. I look forward to working with the town council tonight as we review my proposed capital improvement plan. This 5-year plan adequately reflects the needs of the town. Moreover, this proposed plan exceeds our policy guidelines as well as our strategic plan goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. At this time, I would ask anyone in the public to come up and address the council if you have any comments on the budget, on the CIP. Okay, hearing none, we'll then move on to the motion before us.
Madam Chair, I move to consider the fiscal year 2016-2017 to 2020 to 2021 5-year capital improvement plan.
Second.
Okay. So we'll begin.
Yeah, do you want to kind of go through our schedule?
The process.
And the process?
Yes, yes. What we're going to be doing tonight is going through different pieces of the budget. First of all, we're going to be hearing the Board of Education, and then we will be taking a break to have a quick bite to eat. And then we're going to be going through the Police and Fire, the Public Works and Development, Community and Recreation, and then the Town Manager's Office. And when each of these pieces comes up, our Town Manager will come up with the people from that department and talk to us in detail about what that CIP is for that, for instance, for the Police Department. But first, we're going to have the Board of Education come and speak to us. And tonight, just so that you know, the council will not be taking action on this. We're considering it tonight, and we're going to be asking any questions or getting more information if we need to. We may have questions that people will come back to us with, and that's at the next meeting or in between the meetings, send us information. And that's something that process is what we'll be doing tonight. But we won't be voting on this budget. The CIP will be voted on when we vote on the budget in its entirety in March. So now it's just a hearing for this CIP budget. So, Kathy Greeter and Superintendent of Schools, and Chris Fagan, the board chair. And we also have other people with you. Welcome on this snowy night.
And we welcome you tonight
Thank you.
to talk to us about your CIP and look forward to hearing about the schools.
Good evening, Town Council and Chris Fagan, and I don't know if you wanted to say a few words?
No, I just want to thank the council for allowing us to present our budget, capital budget to you tonight, and hopefully, fruitful discussion and consideration of our budget.
So I will provide just a brief overview of the Board of Education's approved capital budget. The total request from the Board of Education is $1,957,202. Projects are in priority order, but also reflect the greatest needs in our school district. All of these projects, in one way or another, support the Board of Education's visionary 5-year goals, our mission, and our vision of the graduate. So the first project is our technology infrastructure. That is $565,000. This request includes desktop computer replacement plan, science lab upgrades, classroom AV plan implementation, and that's a focus on Westwood's Upper Elementary School, a virtual desktop project. We're in phase 3 of that, and that adds more storage to ensure availability of services throughout the district. Also an HVAC for 2 data centers at East Farms and Noah Wallace. That was identified in the ad hoc report that we had presented to the town council earlier this year. And cafetorium AV upgrade at Westwood's Upper Elementary School, which is very much needed. The next project is the FHS roof replacement for $148,700. That's Section U. Section U spans the 400 section of FHS, including health education classrooms. You can just leave it on here. I'm not going to cover it. STEP program, special services classrooms, and staff offices near the back of the gymnasium. The 3,990 square foot flat built-up 24-year section of roofing is experiencing insulation compression and severe ponding, and it's resulting in significant moisture retention in that area. This is really an emergency project. We did not have it on our plan to go forward this year, but it's experiencing, significant need. After reimbursement, this would be a $107,144 project. We do have, part of our roofing plan was to bring forward another $71,300 project, but we did not include it in anticipation of the FHS building committee. So we felt that we're just really going to do emergency items right now while we're going through that process. The next is school security for $50,000, and this is to continue to implement our security review recommendations. The review took place in 2013, and we have phased in the implementation of the recommendations. The next is school code and safety compliance for $50,000. This is to maintain compliance with fire and life safety codes, replacement or modification of life safety equipment and structure. These include fire suppression and alarm systems, emergency lighting, AEDs, emergency exiting hardware, and upgrades to fire-related enclosures and pathways. The next is our district-wide mechanical equipment for $55,372. This project is a rooftop packaged HVAC equipment over the IAR administration and nurse's office and the computer lab. The HVAC equipment is original to the 1994 edition and it is in need of replacement. The next project is a capital facilities condition report for $92,800. This includes an evaluation and assessment of 5 schools for the purpose of identifying HVAC, MEP, and infrastructure repair or replacement cost for updating our 5-year capital plan. This was part of our capital ad hoc committee recommendations.
Can you just tell us what schools they are?
It would be all schools except FHS and Westwoods, because we've done the review of FHS, and Westwoods is a newer building that does not need the review.
Westwoods is, yeah. Thanks.
Capital Comprehensive Needs Assessment is also a capital ad hoc committee recommendation for $82,200. This includes the development of a long-range plan for facility improvements, which may include renovations, additions, or new construction, again, to the 5 schools that would be in the same study for the capital facilities condition report. The next is the Iar Library Renovation. This is $160,000. This project would consolidate facility improvements that have been a focus the past few years, namely air conditioning the space to provide not only comfort to the occupants, but also an area of refuge in extreme heat events, which we've had in recent years. Replacing original carpeting and a creation of a sliding glass partition between the library and an interior classroom, opening up that space to form a more integrated and flexible and transparent learning space that's required to align to our district mission and vision. You've seen some of that work at the library at the high school. This is also now a shelter. IAR is now considered a second shelter here in Farmington, and it has very limited air conditioning. And we felt that even having, some spaces would be very important in case we had an emergency in the summer. But it really is an ongoing issue for the school, just trying to give areas when we have extreme heat. That building tends to get very warm, and we monitor that heat. And unlike other schools, we really have no place to cycle students through cooler areas. Student transportation vehicle replacement, that's $86,000, and this would be to replace 2 vehicles that are 12 plus years old, and they each have more than 200,000 miles. Classroom furniture is $150,000. This furniture request would provide a state-of-the-art, flexible, modern, collaborative style furniture in some classrooms at IAR. This furniture is really proving successful at both the elementary and FHS levels, and we want to continue our furniture replacement plan, which has been stalled due to some of the cuts in our capital budget in previous years. Kitchen equipment, this is an oldie but a goodie for some of you. This has been requested in the past. We need to replace a 36-year-old dishwasher at FHS. The dishwasher really no longer functions at the level expected. Parts and repairs exceed normal maintenance, and therefore it is in need of replacement. The last is the IIR roof replacement for $481,130. After reimbursement, it's $343,369, and that would replace K, N, and O sections of the roof near the front of the building on the left side if you're facing the building. The flat EPDM rubber membrane roof sections are past their warranty period of 20 years and are included as part of our phased replacement of roofs in Farmington. There's increased signs of wear, especially at the seams, and resulting in some regular repairs at leak sites. This concludes my presentation of the capital request from the board. I really thank you for your attention to our request and your careful review of the Board of Education's needs in the capital budget. We do ask that the Board of Education's request be fully funded for the 2016-17 capital budget.
Thank you. I'll open it up for
Yes.
questions.
And
Okay.
then if you have a question, we can go to the slide.
Okay.
It referencing.
Great. I'll open it up. Go ahead, John.
Would you mind speaking to the science lab upgrade a little bit? Just give us a little detail on that, please.
So the FHS science labs, there's 13 classrooms that are used as science labs. There are currently 12 machines, student machines in each of those that are used for various activities, probes, etc. Those machines exceed 6 years of age. They're some of the oldest machines we currently have in the district. We're looking at upgrading. We're looking at a couple of different options, and I've been working with faculty in the science department to either upgrade, replace those or basically replace those machines with either upgraded machines themselves, or we are also exploring the possibility of adding Chromebook carts to those. So it's not necessarily, it's science lab upgrades, a more general term, because we are still in the process of determining the appropriate equipment to put into those rooms. Either way, I've run scenarios in terms of pricing, whether we go with a Chromebook cart in each of the 13 classrooms, or whether we replace the 12 desktops in each classroom with a newer machine. We're looking at about the same amount of money.
And so when you, just so I'm clear, when you say machine,
Yep.
you mean computer?
Yes,
Okay, because I'm trying to picture in my head a
Sorry.
science lab.
Yes,
It's been a long time
computers.
since I've been.
When you said probe, too, I didn't know what that,
And,
You mean a desktop, right? That's,
We're either looking at desktops or Chromebook carts.
Chromebooks, yeah.
So yeah,
but they
again,
have
I'm working.
desktops now.
They are desktops now.
and you're looking at, you have 13 classrooms and you're looking at replacing how many?
Either 12 per classroom.
Yep.
Currently, 12 desktops per classroom. And we're looking at basically replacing all of those desktops with either upgraded desktops themselves or putting Chromebook carts in where the students would then have a Chromebook. We typically stock Chromebook carts at the high school with 26 devices per cart.
Okay, and these machines, we don't need to get into the weeds, I'm just trying to get an idea. The weeds are for you guys, but they're not functioning currently where they should be?
Right. The current machines are Dell Optiplex 745s. They have a cap on their memory of 8 gigabytes of RAM. The software that the science program is running needs much more horsepower behind it. We've upgraded those machines as far as they'll go. Again, they're more than 6 years old. They are the oldest model that we have in the district at this point. They've done us well, but they've extended their useful life at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
other, Amy.
First of all, thank you so much for all your work up until this point. I know how much work and time goes into this, and we very much appreciate it. I'm also thrilled that we're working on the 5-year plan, both in the council and Board of Ed. I think it's fantastic for the town. I just have a bunch of follow-up questions, just so I understand what's going on. The first relates to the Farmington High School roof replacement. First instinct is we're at the brink of coming up with a long-term plan. And Kathy, when you say emergency, I trust you.
Yeah, it's
But I just need, if you can just explain a little bit more of what due diligence you've done up until this point to conclude that there's no decent Band-Aids, and that this is really needed, just because from a timing standpoint, we hate to double spend.
Absolutely.
So if you can start with that would be great.
Absolutely. And as Kathy mentioned, there was
Excuse me, before you, can you introduce yourself
Oh,
too, so
sure.
the
Tim
public
Harris.
knows who?
Tim
Yes.
Harris, Director of School Facilities.
Thanks, Tim.
As Kathy mentioned, there was 2 other sections that we decided to pull out of this because of the pending review of the high school. But this one, over the last 2 winters, we've had major Band-Aids, multi-$1,000 repairs. One of them last year was in the dead of winter, where we were up there with heaters to try to thaw the roof out so the roofing contractor could come on and rip the roof away. What it is, the technology when they built that roof was it's a material called Tectum. It's like 1.5 inch thick, and it's not unlike particle board. It looks the same. When that's compromised with water, it turns black and it flakes apart, as you can imagine, particle board
Right.
would. And it leaks, and of course, it's also an indoor air quality issue because it smells musty, and it's very hard to repair. So what's happening there is a lot of these older flat roofs where when back in the day when they were really flat, like this table. Now, of course, a quote-unquote flat roof means,
Incline.
quarter-inch pitch to the foot. What happens then is over years of snow and ice and water sitting on them, the insulation compresses. It used to work fine with the drains, but as the insulation compresses, the drain, being a hard cast iron fixture, is now above the depressed area of the roof. So for the water to go out the drains, you need a lot of rain, and you're left with a pond afterwards that can only evaporate. So in the winter, when you have a freeze-thaw cycle, it works its way down between these layers of a built-up roof is like felt paper and then tar, hot tar, felt paper, hot tar, it's subsequent layers, and then with a stone aggregate over the top. Water finds ways into these areas, expands, bursts, and sinks again, and it exacerbates the problem. Water gets in, and there's severe leaks. So we had an area in the STEP program where, we had a garbage pail under it, and they're trying to do classwork, and it smelled because of the, we had to fix that in the middle of the winter, and it was the second winter we had problems like that. So we deemed this one a necessary evil, that it's just, we could just keep throwing good money after
Oh, we're wasting
bad.
money.
Yes, yep. That's
Look, the high school renovation committee is just starting, so we can't even try to talk to them and see what their game plan is. It's a shame and
Right.
lousy timing, but at least I appreciate the explanation.
Yes.
Couple other questions. One, I was looking at last year's projected improvements, and you guys had said for technology that it was supposed to be 300,000, but you're coming in at 565. If you can just explain what changed, because that's a big jump from what you thought it was going to happen and what is happening, and yeah, if you can just go into that, that would be wonderful.
I'm a little unsure as to where the number and the projection came from, because the numbers that I have in my records were a little different.
Okay,
So
that's,
I'm
happy to be wrong. I was just.
what you have on your sheet is correct, and we did this, as we were going through this year and preparing our documents, we did see the same thing. But the documentation that I had in terms of what I've submitted and what I've got for projected ongoing over the next 5 years is in the $500,000 range.
So did the items change at all? I mean, your items last year that
No.
you thought you would need in this coming year, are they the same items that you're asking for this year?
Yeah.
So there's really no explanation?
The numbers that I had were about $100,000 off between the two. So I'm unsure at this point, and we started looking into it, but I don't know where along the lines the numbers changed between what I submitted as projected versus what came out in the documentation to you guys as projected.
I appreciate the honesty. It's just, the whole idea is planning here.
Yep.
And that impacts other things that we choose to do. If really the items are the same, but the number is $265,000 difference,
Yep.
it's not ideal.
And that's, I have a running record. Again, as I said, I've got a running record that goes out to 2020. And at this point, my projected for each year is in that $500,000. And that's based on projects that we had planned 3 years ago, as well as projects that we're foreseeing coming down the road. The only other, and I'm not sure, because I don't have that sheet in front of me,
Right.
is whether or not the telephone, there was some confusion as to the telephone piece. At one point, telephone was grouped in under technology
Right.
as one item, and then was split out as a separate item.
Okay. Is telephone that high of an expense?
Telephone was $300,000.
Yes.
Yeah, last year it was.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you take the two and combine them, and that could be what the discrepancy, again, I don't have it in front of me, but when going through and preparing technology infrastructure, 2016, 2017, this is moving forward though. Yeah, going back, I'd have to go back and see what the projecteds were. The numbers were a little off, but the total last year for technology, the expenditures and then the projected, we're going 5 years out to 2020. We're looking at about $500,000 each year.
Okay, so
in
this.
technology expenses.
So this was just either a miss or somehow telephone got in there. If you learn more and you learn that it was telephone,
I'll
and it's
share it.
just, please let me know, because it would just make me feel more comfortable.
Yep.
A few other little things, and then I'll let others. The district-wide mechanical equipment, which you said was the HVAC at IAR, wasn't on last year's projection either. Was there another emergency with respect to that? Or maybe,
Yeah, in the district, that is the top priority for replacement. We have had problems, major repairs, and especially in the computer lab there. And it's just old, tired equipment that's exposed, to the weather, and there's really no other explanation. It's a lot of repair. And we even though we do a lot of it in-house, we can only stem the tide so long. So this is number 1 and 2, those two areas.
right.
Yep.
And I assume the cost to keep it working is quite high. We're actually.
Yeah, and not only that, but by replacing it, we would be actually saving money. It would be higher efficient equipment, so there'd be actually be a shorter payback period for it.
Okay. My last question relates to the district-wide capital facility condition report. I see that you're doing it for all 5 schools. My question is, we've put so much energy into analyzing how poorly, arguably, the high school is running, and now we have this whole new committee and potentially $400,000 to help you. Does it make sense to include the high school in that, or are we double dipping to some extent? Because, I mean, I know we've analyzed, go ahead.
The Tecton review has been done.
Right.
So all of that has already been reviewed and analyzed, and it's part of the Tecton report.
Okay.
So we don't need to replicate that. That's complete. We're talking about schematics.
Right.
In this next phase of the building committee.
Now, I'm just talking with respect to it seems like you're going to do an analysis of the HVAC at all the schools. And that includes the high school, correct?
No.
No, it doesn't.
Not
Oh, okay.
Westwoods or the
It's
high
not
perfect.
Westwoods
Okay.
or the high school.
Then that's a good answer.
Because the high school's been done and Westwoods is newer.
Okay, I know people have many other questions. I appreciate the detail.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other question, Meredith?
It appears, and maybe this is a question for Kathy Egan, that in all of this, we're funding the capital at its full expense, but then what happens when those reimbursements come in? So, even if you just take the roof, I don't even know how much, some $40-some thousand in reimbursements. Where does that money go then?
It goes,
I was going to say in the general fund.
it does, yeah. Yeah.
It just goes in
Oh.
the general fund, okay.
But we're required to fund it fully.
Right.
Right.
And then it comes in.
And then it comes, the reimbursement.
And then it
comes
goes to
back
the general. Okay,
to the town.
thanks.
Is that then reflected in the report? Do we go back and rather than say it's 148,000 that went to the schools, that it's now 107, or does it stay? Well, we're going to look now at the, or it's not just the school, it's anything, is it?
Yeah, the reimbursement, just comes back right into the general fund. There's there's not another line item in the general fund that says that's the reimbursement. I mean, in the audit and all those details.
It goes through that.
It goes through that.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Other questions?
One question.
Peter?
I want to make sure I'm clear. I heard you right. On the capital technology infrastructure, the 565 number is accurate, or you need to tweak it?
It's accurate.
It is accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Accurate.
It was the projection that was? Okay.
Other questions? John?
Could you review again the items that you're looking and the amounts you're looking to get reimbursed from the state?
Sure. There are 2 items that have reimbursement. The first would be the roof replacement at FHS, and that's replacing Section U. And we have that for a total cost of $148,700. When you look at reimbursement, the total cost for that project is $107,144. The other would be the IAR roof replacement, which is listed at $481,130. But when you look at total reimbursement, after reimbursement, what the total for that project will be for the town, it's $343,369.
Thank you. My second question has to do with your priorities here. And I'm looking at 3 items in particular, the transportation vehicles, the classroom furniture, and the library renovations. As I'm reading this, that all of the technology infrastructure is more important than those items?
Because the technology infrastructure really speaks to our daily work with students, and it has become, a big part of students' experience each day learning. So I think you'll see technology infrastructure as a top priority every year because it has become such an integral part of our work with students each day. And, you know, we wouldn't be able to really imagine it not be that way at this point. It's very much an integrated part of our instruction with students. So it's always going to be a top priority for us.
But at some point, the dishwasher breaks, it becomes the priority for you.
Yes. I would say that if I were to look at this list, and I've said this to the board, they're all priorities. We've experienced, and you know, this is just our reality, where we've had cuts to the capital, and we understand there's a certain amount that can be funded, but then what happens is things get pushed out, and so I would say that everything we have here is really vital right now to what we need for next school year. And, you know, that unfortunately I can't say, well, you know, we can wait for this or wait for that. It's one of those years where we just have, you know, several priorities. We certainly, given whatever we do get for capital, we always have to, you know, look at things again and try to prioritize as best we can. But I really did have a hard time putting these in priority order because they're very similar as far as their need and the priority that we see.
Thank you.
Toby, can I ask
Other
a follow-up just for?
Sure.
You put technology as number one. If, let's say, you were given less than that, how would it impact the kids? Because honestly, that's what I care about the most, is the education in the kids. So if somehow you didn't get the 565,000, but you got a lesser number, can you explain to me what life would look like at Noah Wallace and Westwoods and the high school?
Yeah, and just so you know, there is a relationship
Yeah, no, but just generally.
to our operating budget when it comes to technology. So there is this constant, you know, we have to look at both at all
Right.
times, and if we can have some flexibility, we try to do that, you know, when it comes to operating funds and capital. But we do always meet, you know, the capital expectations when we do budget in the capital.
So the largest part of the 565 is obviously the desktop replacement and the science lab upgrades. That desktop replacement is really, again, targeting those oldest machines throughout the district. Again, 6+ years old. They are primarily, you know, model number wise, Dell 745, Dell 755, Dell 760s. They're all within the same range. They've met their useful life. We've upgraded them as far as we can. As the technology, as the software demands advance, those machines continue to run slower and slower. The teachers, just from an instructional impact, it takes that much longer for teachers to get things up on the computer. Those machines, those computers drive the projection system in the classroom. That's what the teachers are using to interact with the students on a daily basis for the in-class activities. Just a 2-minute delay could, you know, has impact for each of the activities that the teacher pulls up on the screen as well. It's part of a larger 3-year plan, the desktop replacement. This year we're targeting those 3 classes of machines, which are our oldest. I've already got projected for next year phase 2, which is to go after the next class of machines, which are a little bit younger, and we've already upgraded. We can get another year out of them, and then year 3 is whatever's left at that point, getting us back into that regular cycle. And again, a lot of these machines started to get replaced about 10 years ago, and we've done a little bit here and there. We shifted our priority to Chromebooks for several years in trying to build up our Chromebook stock, and now we're returning back to those classroom desktop machines. So, I mean, it does have cutting back on that just delays the inevitable, and it causes an increased frustration again as that software advances and there are more demands on the hardware in the classroom because of the software upgrades that are tied to the curriculum. the teacher's frustration and the student's frustration will also build.
Is there any, and I think I asked this last year, is there any savings that were, I mean, I know I have children in the school system. They don't have textbooks very often. It's all online. Is there any savings? I know you pay licensing fees, but is there any balance that we're saving money because we're using Chromebooks instead of getting the hard copy?
In reality,
Yeah, in reality.
there's a balance. There is a balance. But you'll see a lot of the publishers, when they release digital copies, are charging more. They're dynamic textbooks. So yes, we see savings in some accounts, but we see increases in other accounts. So while you may see a savings in textbooks, licensing fees goes up. So it's really, you're just shifting the pocket that the money is in.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I have a few now. First of all, could you go through for me, because I'm not as technology, the page where it's the 565 page, this one, which is up there. Could you explain to me, you just mentioned the first one, I assume the first one, which is district-wide and which is desktop computers, and that's what you just spoke to, right?
Correct.
So that's throughout the town of just
Correct.
upgrading or new
New computers, replacing existing.
Okay, this is replacing existing computers. With those computers that you're replacing, do those then go to another place where they will be, those may be more recent computers than some other, you know, how you do that in the schools where you might take them from Farmington High and then they go down, to IAR and then they go down to, you know what I mean? Is that what would happen with these?
We do that on a regular basis. The machines that we're replacing in this phase are at their end of useful life. So they are not machines that we would transfer to another
Any other
location
school?
because
Okay.
they are the oldest machines that we're targeting first.
Okay.
We would strip them down for useful parts. Whether it's take the memory out, we take whatever's useful out of them, but in most cases, these machines are going to get sent to recycling.
And this, again, is district-wide?
Correct.
So it goes from Farmington High School right to all the elementary schools?
Correct.
IAR, Westwoods?
Correct.
Okay. And next, the science lab, you explained that. That's just Farmington High School.
Correct.
Can you tell me classroom AV?
So we are in year 2 of Classroom AV. It's revisiting the Farmington classroom. And the last, year 3, I think the last 2 years, we've done audiovisual upgrades, projector upgrades in many of the elementary classrooms, focused primarily on the K-4 schools, so East Farms, Noah Wallace, Union, and West District. We did a few classrooms at Westwoods this past year, and this year the bulk of the work is at Westwood. So it's a continuation of AV upgrades focused at Westwoods.
But these are not computers.
These are not. These are over the LCD
Overheads.
projectors. Yes, LCD projectors. We have a few rooms that we're looking at potentially installing smart boards, and it's replacing the wiring, updating the wiring to the LCD projector, between the LCD projector and the teacher machine.
Okay, so these are not computers used by the kids, these are projectors on the wall?
Correct.
The Westwoods?
Correct.
So is that the next one, district, virtual desktop project, is that the same kind of thing?
No, the virtual desktop project, this is phase 3 of a larger project. That was to provide internet-based Windows machines for our students to be able to access from the Chromebooks. There we go. We have 6 pools of desktops. I'm trying to think of the best way every year I was trying to think of the best way to explain this. It is a Windows machine in a web browser window. The pools that we have right now service the middle school and the high school. We're beginning to see some usage down at the Westwoods level as well. Because of the increased usage and the advances, we have to increase the storage. So we're looking at adding additional storage in phase 3, and I've already started the process of investigating what the next phase is. Again, the hardware that we're running on for the larger project itself that was originally funded in 13, 14, I'm trying to remember when I got here. 13, 14 is approaching the end of its warranty. We could squeak out another year or 2 on it, but I've started to look at what the costs, the projected costs are, and what that next step would be. So this is just kind of continuing that along, but adding additional storage to a major project.
Okay.
Just real quick to touch on that,
Yeah.
is this the end computing thing? Or
No.
is it one step beyond that?
Yes.
But sort of the same concept?
VMware virtual desktops.
Okay.
You'll
Are you-
understand that better than I do.
Yeah.
Are
I
you-
don't understand.
Are you doing the end computing anymore?
We are still doing end computing where appropriate, but we have seen limitations to the end computing. So we have quite a few. We still, yeah. I mean, we just actually over the February break we upgraded upgraded the Westwoods computer lab and took desktops out, and that's an important note with the desktop replacement project. The line number one is over the past 3 years, we've reduced the number of desktops. So what you're seeing in
With
terms
Chromebooks?
of numbers reflects a reduction in desktops throughout the district anyway. We really have a minimal amount, but I've laid out a 3-year plan to make sure that, we keep things operating.
Is that replacing them with Chromebooks?
Not, some cases, yes. Computer labs, we've done in computing. Again, with the science labs, we may be looking at Chromebooks if the teachers think that it meets their curricular needs. But overall, we've reduced the number.
And data room, HVAC at East Farms and Noel, I think when we went to the tour,
Right.
we saw that in the
Right.
library, right?
At East Farms, yes,
So it's
although
behind it or some,
that's the old data room. We're actually looking at HVAC in the new data room. We've built out in the last 2 years. We've built out down the hall a newer data room because of that tight space that we saw in the library. We're adding HVAC to the new area, and I've already started the process in next year's going back to that projected 5-year. Somewhere in the next few years, we are looking at a rewire of East Farms because of the situation we're in that library closet.
so right now you've begun that. I mean, to put it in another space so that,
Correct.
You're doing that this year.
Correct. Yes, it's already been there. The initial phase of that was partially grant funded.
Oh, okay.
Is it like just a Mr. Slim type thing, or is it bigger than
It's
that?
a split unit, yeah, a ductless split.
Okay.
Because again, the HVAC needs in a data room are different than the everyday needs. That HVAC tends to run more often than in a standard classroom to keep things at temperature.
And then the cafeteria AV upgrade, Westwoods.
Correct.
What is that?
West,
I know what the cafetorium is, but what,
the Westwoods Cafetorium currently has a motorized drop-down screen for large presentations, but they wheel a projector and laptop in on a cart, and when they hold there are a lot of community events that are held there, and that requires somebody to be on site also to set that up. We are looking at a rear projection system with a simple touch screen, so that for those community events and for faculty meetings and for other school events, it's a simple operation and does not require us to wheel a cart with a projector and laptop in. The extension cords going across the floor cause a trip, present a trip hazard. We're looking to install an updated system that also cleans up some things and provides a safer solution.
okay. And my last question about technology is, you got a grant for $87,000 after the fact. You guys were doing your budget and everything. What's happening with that?
So that state grant was targeted at statewide testing preparation. We received $350,000 in the first round, which we used to purchase Chromebooks. This particular allotment of
grant
money,
350 of grant money?
2 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
This year's grant award is primarily targeted at some of our infrastructure. Which will, in a way, offset some future expenditures. The way the grant was written, it's to cover the cost of 2 new core switches, one at the high school and one at Irving Robbins. And again, the relation to the testing is that core switch provides internet service to the building itself it's what manages the internet traffic for the building, and the equipment we have at the high school and at Irving Robbins is aging out and was already on the horizon in terms of needing to be replaced. And because We are in a replacement phase of our Chromebooks at this point, not necessarily purchasing new. We chose to write this for the infrastructure end of the test preparation versus the end user end of the test preparation.
How much is this switch?
They're about 40 grand.
Why?
They're HP core switches, the stackable units with replaceable blades and redundant backbone or backplanes.
Okay.
It's not a workgroup switch. We're talking
Something bigger.
6U
Mm-hmm.
with modules that can be upgraded. This is a switch that would typically last us 10 years, and that's about where we are with the one at the high school. The one at Irving Robbins is actually the hand-me-down from the high school when we replaced the high school one. So it's even older than that.
Okay. So those wouldn't be funds that you initially put in your,
For this year. No.
for this year to change, or in your plan at all?
It was originally, in terms of my plan, I had it out 1 to 2 years. Operating capital, not sure, but it was 1 to 2 years out. And when I drafted the grant proposal, I saw the opportunity that it fit within the way they formulated the grant proposals this year, they based it on enrollment. So we knew what the potential total amount of dollars would be to the school system. And looking at the dollar figures, it fit with those two switches. So that's what we proposed.
Do you foresee any, as you said, you sometimes don't know now, but do you foresee grant money coming in for what's here in the $565,000?
No.
The possibility of anything after the fact?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. And I appreciate all that detail and going out for grants. I mean, it's great. I know we do with the town. Kathy does a lot of that. When you see something coming along the pike, anything that you can do to apply for like that is certainly great for the system. So, my other question goes to, get to it. Excuse me, just a minute. Oh, my other question had to do with the vehicles. And you had some information that I happened to be at one of your meetings, and you were giving a report on it, and were really just wonderful information about, just like we have when we look at the police cars, what the years are, how many miles they are, and all of that. Could you share that with us? Again, with what you gave us some great information that we've asked for, and it was how many you had to get rid of last year, how many this year. So if you could give us that information, that's really helpful just to see, too. I know it's not one of your top priorities, but it's...
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, Vince LaFontaine, and definitely Nancy. Dawn Grayson, the district's bus coordinator, manages the schools, the remaining school vehicles. There are not very many of them, because most of schools' transportation needs are handled by M&J. That was a long-term goal of our former business administrator, Mike Ryan, to minimize the number of vehicles and drivers that are on staff. And
Oh.
M&J does most of the driving.
Uh-huh.
But we still have, very importantly, we still have vehicles in district. 2 of them are actively used every day for student transport. Children with special needs, preschool children, other special cases on a regular basis. And the 2 vehicles that came into, from last year's capital, that came into service this year are the vehicles that are been put into those rounds, or being put into those rounds. The alt school has a vehicle that the job coach uses. There's also a vehicle that you notice, which is in the back. It's the oldest vehicle. It's kept here, and maintenance uses it. It's also used for towing the trailer at different times when
Not for
move
kids.
things. Yeah, not for
Mhm.
students. That's kind of Dawn's. Dawn manages the vehicles that are in this small fleet, and make sure that the oldest vehicle is used for that type of
Mhm.
work. The STEP program and Kathy, you'll have to correct me if this is wrong, but is it Jeff at the high school who drives one of the vehicles? Also, the Chartwells, a team member from Chartwells uses a vehicle, one of the district's vehicles, to move cafeteria products around that are needed from one school to another school. So that's the other vehicle. So we have, Dawn monitors and has a list of, which I could share with
Okay.
the town council at any time. It's here at Town Hall, a list of vehicle age and mileage on the vehicles. And by the way, when a vehicle comes out of service, it is actually donated to the fire department. They use it for emergency, you know, I think they call it a burn vehicle or whatever it is.
They set it up.
You said, yeah, thanks, Chris, once.
So I mean, do we really get use out of these vehicles? We really do. Yeah. So I guess one of the to Kathy's point about everything here is a priority. Clearly, the vehicles you know the two vehicles we'd like to replace have over 200,000 miles. They're over 12 years old. Are they the vehicles that are driving children, or the ones we plan to have driving children? No, and they're still in use. Yes, but we have a plan for replacement. That's why they're on here.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because we haven't seen that in the past, and it's delightful to see that,
Great.
you know, you have a plan of, you know, as I say, I use the police department, but, or
Right.
the fire department, actually, you know, but we have a plan that tells us this is when we expect that we're going to need
Right.
one vehicle or two vehicles and what the cost is, and
Yeah.
so that over time, we can look through that. It's not always, it doesn't always happen. I mean, there are times where we have a police cruiser and we say, okay, you can't have two this year, but you can have one, or, you know,
Right.
the same with the fire equipment, but it's great to have a plan that we, you know, you can look at and do. And certainly, you know, what vehicles you use or get are that's your business, not ours. So, but it's great to see that a plan in place. We appreciate that very much. And I thank you for that information as well. And I just want to say something too, because to make sure that people are aware, when we talk about this as a whole, this plan, and how much money is in it or what's been funded, the council does not, if you're allotted that money, it may be that you don't, say something does happen and you get some more of a grant for something and you have that funding, you know, the money's there. It's not something where the council would go in and say, you can only have X for instance, now, if you have the money you have, it's up to you to decide where that money is going to be spent. It's not that if you don't get X, that means we're cutting the technology. It's up to you to decide that, and it's important that the public understand that. You certainly make those decisions. You know best with your funds what, in the end, your priorities are with what we give you. So it's not like getting so much money to fund X or Y. It's what you decide at that point. So, you know, and things do change. We're sitting here in February, you know, with all of the budgets. I mean, with all of, you know, the town budgets as well. A lot will happen between now, March, and April. And, you know, certainly we hope that more funds are available, but we appreciate and we respect the fact that you do the things that you think are most important. And we really appreciate all the information that you bring to us and how open you are with our needs of getting some more information. But, so I just want to really thank you for that and thank the board, Chris, you know, for that.
I just, thank you, Nancy. I'd just like to say, I mean, I think this represents sort of a very deliberative and collaborative effort from not only the board but the administrators as to what we feel is necessary for this year's in terms of the capital budgeting. And just, you know, there's been some questions as to technology tonight, and, you know, echoing Amy's comments, I mean, we are living in a changing world. My kids don't have textbooks anymore, so this is absolutely crucial. And echoing one of Kathy's comments in her opening was that with technology, Kathy said, we have expectations of the community. And I think as, you know, our high-performing schools and parents and the children expect the best technology had to be current with the educational efforts and mission of the school as it is. So, but I appreciate your efforts tonight in consideration of this, and I think it is a very thoughtful and deliberative, you know, project that we're putting before the council for its consideration.
Thank you. Is there anything else I should ask? Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and being here and all the work that goes into this, so thank you.
Thank you.
And we will now take a break for... Okay, we are back at the Town Council meeting, and we're going to hear more about the CIP from Kathy Egan, our Town Manager. Kathy, you can introduce your...
We are going to start tonight with the police department. We have Chief Melanson here. I thought we'd work off our sheets, these sheets right here. Thought we would just briefly go through the 5-year outlook and then concentrate on the first year of the plan. So we're working off of the second column where it says requested 2016-2017 on page C2, Police Department.
Okay.
So
Welcome, Chief Melanson. Hi.
as you can see that we have 4 items in 16-17. What those items are is that we have $55,000 in police technology improvements, and that is funds will replace video cameras, alarm monitoring, hardware and software, night vision, thermal imaging equipment. We have $25,000 for communication upgrades, and this is funds will be used to purchase interoperable portable radios. We have $25,000 for building improvements, and this is for some carpets throughout the police department and in the Yates training room. And we have $30,000 for speed sign trailers, and that would be funds to purchase 2 new speed sign trailers. Not the really, really big ones, but more middle-sized ones. We have some, I think we borrow them. We borrow them that you would find in the neighborhoods. So you would have those speed sign trailers. So that's a total request of $135,000. Both the technology improvements and the communication upgrades are part of our 5-year plans that we are trying to fund. And I don't know if you have any specific questions on the technology or the upgrades that the chief could answer your questions.
Why don't you tell us a little about it, what that means, the technology for you, the upgrades?
So, obviously, policing is evolving, and the news has been kind of settled around body cameras. And we are not, you've been funding our technology fund. So all of our cruisers now have in-car video cameras. And so they're all equipped with the in-car video. We record audio and video all of our car stops. They're what we call triggers on them. The minute the officer turns on the lights, it pre-records 45 seconds before they even turned it on, so that if they're watching an intersection or if there was an accident, it pre-records those things. That technology, in-car video technology, has been evolving for the last probably 15, 20 years to where now it's at the point where it's really functional. The officer never touches it. They log in with their badge number at the beginning of shift, and then it automatically turns on. The only thing they do is turn it off. And then at the end of shift, when they pull back into, so after they're done, when it turns off, a sub-caption comes up on a monitor, and they just hit, it's a car stop, it was an accident, whatever it was, with a title. When they pull into the back of the police station, it automatically downloads. They never touch it. And it goes right to a server, and we can search it. We can look it up by various things. It has paid dividends. Our officer-involved shooting was captured on in-car video. There were numerous times complaints, racial profiling complaints, those sorts of things. The state has now passed a law where they are talking about body cameras, and it's creating quite a controversy. I'm up at the Capitol testifying because there are certain issues in this, in part of it, that the police chiefs in Connecticut are opposed to. And the technology is not where the in-car video technology is. They just started with these body cam videos about a year ago, and the one that works with our in-car video, the body camera that works with it, they have one out, but they're all telling you wait about 6 months because there's going to be a better one and then a better one after that. So we are not putting body cameras, and I know that's been kind of a the technology. If I would be spending these same dollars next year upgrading, and spending the same dollars the year after upgrading, trying to chase the technology. So, but other than that, The video cameras, we're replacing some in the police station, and we're adding some to the police station for better views to cover the parking lot and the senior center entrance, those sorts of things. The other thing is the alarm monitoring hardware and software. That is, right now, if you were to push a panic alarm, it goes to the police station. And we have a system there where we can monitor that. The buildings here are secure. It goes to the police station. It's antiquated. They find broken down pieces to replace it. So this year, we are replacing that system with a new updated system. What's that? Yes, it's in all the schools too.
Oh.
So we monitor all the town buildings through the police station and all the panic buttons, those sorts of things. So this is an upgrade to the back end. Matter of fact, it still has a dot matrix printer, which you probably haven't seen those too long. And then the night vision and thermal imager, those are in the supervisor's vehicles, and being able to see in the dark, and then the thermal imaging when we have people who are lost or away. The thermal imaging obviously is just a phenomenal tool to be able to find that, or to find discarded evidence, those sorts of things. So that's this year, and then looking out, we are looking to transfer from hard computers in the cruisers to more tablet style, because the computer in the car costs over $6,000, where we can get a tablet style for a lot less than that. So we are testing that this coming year, and so, future years, we're kind of planning out for that, depending on the test.
Thank you.
How about in the communication section?
So in communications, last year was a big year because we were upgrading we only have one frequency that goes throughout town for the police department. And so last year, you funded a second frequency to be done, and we're in that process. It takes FCC approval, takes contracts, site, and so that is well on its way. The other thing we did some active shooter drills at the West Farms Mall with the West Hartford Police, and on a Sunday night. And what we realized was we had zero communications with the other officers. And what we discussed would be a solution to that was at least our supervisors having portables that can get the West Hartford frequency. It's a more expensive portable than the one that we carry normally. So what our plan is, and what we're looking to fund with this, is portables so that our supervisors can at least communicate with their supervisors, so that it's at least a joint response and we know what each other's doing. Then those portables that our supervisors have, we're going to give to the CERT team, that Community Emergency Response team, who has been looking for portables. So it's it's a great way to filter that down. So, and then years out, we have been planning our dispatch consoles where the dispatchers sit in the communications center. Those will be obsolete in about 2 years. So, you'll see and those aren't cheap. I mean, it's $445,000. So, we have that in there for 18, 19 to replace those consoles, and so.
And then also our building how old is the police station now? Was it 2002?
Yeah, so it's getting 14 years now.
So we do have money in the out years to start looking at some building improvements for the police department. They seem like our new buildings, but we do have some different things. And one of the things that you've talked about quite a bit is on the outside where the cars.
Yeah, the carport is a flat carport. So this year, obviously, an anomaly. But in the previous years, when it snows, that's what we have the carport there for. We can't park under it because the load is not, it starts to bow, and we have to take all the cars out. So we've been talking about a pitched roof to try and alleviate that. And with that, the drainage from the carport dumps into the driveway. And obviously, it's shaded and it creates ice, and it's hard. Obviously, the sanders can't get in there, so it creates an issue. So as a part of this, what we've been planning on is to pitch the carport roof and put drainage so that when the water drains, it actually goes out away from the parking area. So.
Wow. One thing leads to another.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have any specific questions about 16-17 request or any of the out years?
Amy?
Just minor. First of all, Chief, I just want to thank you. You run a phenomenal department. Farmington is much safer because of you, and every person that I've come into contact with that works under you is all class and integrity. So thank you for what you're doing and what you continue to do.
Well, thank you very much.
To really sort of, one is just a brainstorm, and it's almost a silly suggestion. For the building improvements, you want to replace carpet. Why not just do tile? I feel like you're constantly replacing carpets. Has anyone looked at tile? You do it, and you're done.
Yep, so most of the areas are tile, but what we're looking to do is, as you know, the Yates Community Center room
Right.
is right off of where our lobby is, which is where the communication center is.
Right.
And what we find is that we're having an issue when there's a meeting in there.
Noise.
It carries all over. So in talking to some of the architects, they said that it would be much better to put some carpet in there.
Okay.
And it will actually enhance it. So that's a great portion of this. And then the others were in the locker room space, the carpet that gets walked on constantly with the boots and those sorts of things. And then in the entrance, foyer entrance, they have carpet so that you don't bring it onto the tile that's
Right.
in there. So those were the two areas that really under this. And we're hoping the Yates room that it will kind of dampen the noise. And I know other training rooms have it,
Okay.
because there is a fear that, the wear on the carpet in a
Right.
24/7 off a lobby. But they do make carpet especially for these types of areas, so that's what we're looking at.
And my other question relates to your technology improvements. You went in depth as to the different technology that the purchases you hope to make. Honestly, they all sound very impressive and necessary. I just was looking at last year's projections, and I think you had projected you needed 35,000, and you're coming in at 55. What item seems to be new or you didn't anticipate?
So in this year, because the 35 was just for the alarm monitoring hardware and software.
Okay.
Our night vision and thermal imager, the patrol lieutenant said they absolutely need to be replaced. So that was $10,000 for those two pieces of equipment.
Okay.
So that's why it
That's
went
why it's
up.
more.
Yep. And then the video camera replacement, we had a complaint from somebody we arrested. We went to go look at the video in the booking area, and we realized that there's an area in the booking area that's not covered by video. So, and we needed to enhance, there's now, 14 years later, some of the video cameras are breaking, and
Okay.
they're just not as clear as 14 years ago. They're very fuzzy. So this 10,000 will actually add 10 new cameras and replace 10 cameras.
Okay.
Is the
And that's what the
That's
difference.
right, and that's the difference.
And just because you brought this up, the body cameras that potentially you might be coming to us next year to ask for, do you have any sense of that kind of cost because it would be for each officer?
So the way the law is written right now is if we were to take any grant money for every single officer, any sworn officer who deals with the public would have to wear one. So right now, I would be wearing a body camera and recording everything. All that would be downloaded and kept for at least 90 days and FOIable. We are working on trying to change that law because we don't believe so the detectives, the supervisors, everybody would have to wear one.
All the
Every
time.
time they dealt with the public, they would have to have it. So we are working on trying to change that, but it is a substantial cost. Most agencies our size are looking at about $1 million for storage cost, which is why people are shying away
And
from it.
it's unmandated, it's mandated, but it's unfunded.
So they're going to grant it, but the problem is with the grant becomes you get 1 year, but then you have to follow the law, which is then you have to keep them. So in other words, nobody's paying to replace them, or when your storage gets filled, or when there's an FOI request. An example is NYPD just had a request for 40 hours of video, and they're charging $36,000 to comply with that FOI request, because somebody has to sit through all 40 hours of the video and redact it, because there are certain things that are not allowed to be given out. So somebody has to have the software to redact it, they have to sit there, watch all 40 hours of it, there's a cost to that, and then duplicate it. So it's new technology. Again, I hope to not be before you next year to get it, but maybe the year after, I think, would probably be where I think we're going with this.
Thank you.
Other questions? John?
So I see in the 5-year capital improvement plan, you have 2 SUVs for the supervisors. Is that the only vehicle needs you have for the 5 years?
Most of them are in the operating budget.
Okay.
Yeah. That is just a different vehicle than what we normally get. The supervisor vehicle is a little bit larger of a vehicle to hold all this equipment that we had talk about.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Is it still snowing out?
It's more rain.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Next, we have the fire department.
Okay, next.
Oh, go ahead.
Next, we'll have the Public Works?
Nope,
Or
fire
no?
department.
Fire Department, okay. Oh, yep. Sorry. Oh, you're gonna,
You just
Yeah.
say why you're good.
Yeah.
You just say.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this part of the budget hearing. I'm a member of Farmington Fire.
okay, thank you.
We have Mary Ellen and our fire chiefs, and Mary Ellen, maybe you can introduce everyone.
Certainly. We have Assistant Chief Brian Hunter from Tungsten Coast, Chief Russ Nelson from East Farms, and Chief Don Giovanni from Farmington Center.
Welcome, everybody. Mary Ellen?
So again, we're working off of our regular sheet, and we have the fire department's request, and it's on C2. And for the upcoming year, we have 3 items, and then we have some out years, and then we also have some a bonding issue. So in the general fund 16-17, we have $45,000 for turnout gear. Funds will continue to replace the it's a replacement plan for turnout gear. So that is our first one, and you can see in the out years, we have that every year that we're replacing turnout gear. It's a very important piece of equipment or gear for our firefighters, so we're trying to keep up with that. The next thing is $135,000 for SCBA cylinder replacements, and funds will replace the self-containing breathing apparatus for the entire Tunxus hose station.
Oh.
And then you will see later on out in years 18-19, that will be for what fire station, Mary Ellen?
Farmington Center and
That-
Oakland Gardens.
That would be for those 2 fire stations. So that's the $135,000. And then the $25,000 is for painting and carpeting, and this will be funds for worn carpets, specifically at Farmington Fire Station, and then to paint interior areas of various fire stations. On that topic, if you look in the out years, one of the things I wanted to just briefly talk about is that if you'll see on the fire department, the last 2 items, you'll see there was fire station improvements for the $25,000, and then you'll see underneath fire station renovations. Last year, you funded a study to look at all our fire stations, and again, our new fire stations were done in 2001, and that's when our upgrades were done. Again, there was a study done last year that we've gotten the results of to look at all of our 4 fire stations, and comprehensively, there's about $10 million worth of work that comes out in these studies. And it's really from soup to nuts of expanding the fire stations, heating, mechanical, all different things. And in discussion with Mary Ellen and the fire chiefs, what we'd like to do is that we're at kind of I call it not a tipping point, but a change where we're going with our fire department over the next 5 years and 10 years. You know, we're a volunteer fire department, primarily a volunteer fire department that's supplemented by paid people. We need to, before we start thinking about putting $10 million or some amount of money into all these fire stations, we need to come up with some sort of a 5-year strategic plan, continue with our strategic plan. So what Mary Ellen has suggested, and I agree, is that we'd like to, we don't feel at this time we want to hire another consultant to help us do that, but instead have a subcommittee of maybe a member of the council, the fire chief, some staff people, to really look at a 5-year plan about where we want to go before, we have fire stations that are very small. Before we start expanding, do we do bunks in the evening? There's just a lot to go with it. And so what we'd like to do over the course of this next year is really try to come up with a 5-year, 10-year outlook of that, and then go back to this plan and decide what really we want to do with it. And so I think that that's an important thing. It's a planning document and how we're going to move ahead. And I think it was very useful to see some of the different things that they say that could be done. And we do run 4 full fires, 4 stations. So anyway, so that's something that, again, is going to be coming up in the next year. And as you can see in the out, it says $7.5 million, but that's because we ran out of years. So that's what that is. And that is it for the 16-17. The bond request that we are asking for is engine 3 replacement, which is at Southwest Fire Station. That fire truck is, why don't you give the data on that?
It's a 1997 Pierce, and if you were to go out next year to replace it, it would be a year of construction time, so it would actually be 20 years old by the time you replace it. That truck has had a lot of collision problems. It's one of 4 that we bought all at the same time, and they were all built the same way, and we've had them repainted and repainted and repainted, and they just aren't standing up to the salt and sand that we're seeing out on the roads. We've literally lost fuel tanks in the middle of the road, and this is one of those trucks that's just gonna rot if we keep it too long.
We do have a very good replacement plan for our vehicles, and as you can see on most of the out years, we do have a big vehicle going out in 1920. We have the ladder 1 replacement, which is a $1,200,000 expenditure. But for the council and for the public have been very supportive of our replacement plans, and we have been trying to put them out on the out years and things like that. The other thing what Mary Ellen mentioned, which is important to note, that it does take a year for the fire truck to be built. So again, by the time it's built and it's delivered, this vehicle is going to be 20 years. We try to have the fire trucks, these types, going every 20 years. So this is for engine 3, and then as you can see, we have them on the out years almost every year, a different vehicle. And that's it. So if you have any specific questions for Mary Ellen or the chiefs?
Do you expect to put a group together this year, did you say?
Yeah.
To start talking about the whole fire department?
Right. We've been recently brainstorming about it, decide which would be the best way to do it. And actually, Mary Ellen's kind of have been working on a charge for me to bring to the council. Probably we're looking probably for the April meeting to just kind of have a charge. And I think we're looking for something relatively informal at this point in time, kind of a working group to kind of look at some different items, bat some different things out. There's a lot of, there's definitely a lot of issues. Fire service is changing, nighttime coverage, the medical calls, how many fire departments we have, where our fire departments are located, how big they are, what services when the, Tunxus hose is very small, and for offices, and a lot of different things. And so we're looking over this course of the year really to kind of vet a lot of these different issues at our level, and then maybe get some public involvement in some different things to because there's a lot to it, and also a $10 million expenditure is quite a lot to look at.
It sure
in the
is,
future.
right?
So
Well, and one of the things that I've heard a lot, it seems lately, is how much, we get numbers every year of what the change is from medical calls to fire calls to, that kind of thing. So we, in our regular budget, Kathy always brings us some information from you about what the change has been. But one of the things that I've heard out there is so many more medical calls that have come about, and it could be from nursing homes, all kinds of things. And but a real increase in that. And how should we be handling it? I have no idea, but the question comes now as to if we're doing a lot more medical, what does that mean for the firefighters? And should we be? How much should we do, and when, and all kinds of things that I certainly don't know. But that may be a thing to really talk about, and what kinds of calls you're seeing as increased, and what it means for your volunteer fire department.
And the timing for this is good. We're in a position now where things are working well, and we just have a chance to sit back and look and say, what's the future going to bring, and how do we get best positioned to answer those things? So this is really the right time to have those discussions when we're ahead of the game.
Well, that's great.
And one of the things that we're proud of here in Farmington is that we we think out of the box. Like our fire service, just how we're modeled, has become a model for a lot of other towns when we first started with the fire director and some different things. And now with things are changing, when you say with the medical calls and the nighttime, we're looking, Mary Ellen and I are looking to, we're not going to follow maybe what everyone else has done. You know, we want to kind of look out of the box, and if we can create something that works for us here in Farmington, that's what we want to do. And it doesn't have to be what X town does or another town does, because I think that we have shown that we can think creatively and look at, you know, we don't have to be like everyone else. And so it's going to be, we have a great volunteer base, we have great paid people, our director, our chiefs, so I think we'll all be able to come up with some different solutions to deal with some of the changes in the whole fire service.
Well, we couldn't be prouder of our fire department at all. You know, I mean, you do a great job. You're always there for people in so many kinds of situations, and it just runs so well. And I think one of the reasons is we don't worry about being inside the box. We always, is there something better we can do? And, you know, we have people that have been here for a long time and know the ropes, and new people coming in. We were at the dinner the other night, a lot of new young people coming in. It's wonderful, you know, it's just, it's great. And, but such a camaraderie and commitment to the department and to one another, which is really neat to see. But we look forward to hearing, you know, and we've always Farmington's set apart from the other towns in what you do. And we appreciate that and respect what you do. Questions? Meredith?
This is just a money question. Kathy, when we were looking at earlier Joe's debt service plan and the capital expenditures, was that $10 million in the plan that we saw? Were these projections in there? No.
The $10 million for the fire station.
Not in there.
Or the
Fire truck.
Fire engines?
Okay, yeah, no, I was talking about the 2.5 in each of these years.
Once we kind of look at some of our strategic planning, we obviously will have to put some money in. I think $10 million is, you know, that's soup to nuts on everything. So we were a little bit hesitant about putting that kind of money in it, because I don't think it's really 100% accurate. So, but I think your point, though, is well taken, that it's got to be adjusted, because the fire department does look like it's going to probably need some amount of bonding in the future.
And some of those years were hairier than others.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And on that note, those numbers don't include any high school renovations either,
Right.
correct? So
Right.
there's a lot looking forward.
Mm.
Yeah.
Other questions or thoughts? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for coming tonight.
Very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure, the chiefs are out there.
Now, Public Works and...
Public Works.
Okay.
We got Russ Arnold and Scott Zanke here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, why don't you give them out, because that's the intro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good move, Russ.
What are these? Are these the roads?
These are the roads.
Thank you. Whoa, color-coded.
That's all.
Very nice.
I can't see, even with my glasses.
Can't see it with your glasses on.
You know, that I need to accept that I can't see.
We need magnifying
Get it on
glasses
the-
for this.
we can't get
No,
it
it's
on-
like, it's my eyes. It has nothing to do with the,
No, I can't see it at all.
trying to get my
So we
bearings.
have
Welcome.
Russ and Scott here today. We're going to go through the engineering department first, which is on C1. And as you can see, we have 3 items. One is a bonding of $4 million for road reconstruction, $125,000 for STP Urban. This is the New Britain Avenue Road project. As you probably remember, the town has been banking funds which will be used for the town's portion of the upcoming state road project. The project is funded 80% by the state of Connecticut and 20% by the town of Farmington. So this is the New Britain Avenue intersection. So we've been banking money, and we have one more year of banking. But we are spending some of that money, or we're going to spend money, because that's in the process of being designed right now. So we're paying our portion of the design. And so that's going to be one more year of $100,000, and we've been banking money on that. And then we have $35,000 for environmental compliance. This is stormwater and things like that, where when we have different things, stormwater cleaning, when we have to clean the drains, and we bank money for that. The road bond, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that before we got into the details, and kind of have an understanding of what we try to achieve with our road program. So our road program is that we try, best practices, not that we have done this, but best practices is we should be doing roads between 20 and 25 years. Some roads require it to be more often, depending on the volume of traffic and the drainage and different things that go. Some don't need it as frequently if they don't have a lot of volume, or there's not any drainage issues. But again, a general 20 to 25 years, roads should be being replaced. We have 120 miles of roads, town roads here in town, and we do have a road program. And over the last 10 years, I'm going to say that we've done a much, much better job of repairing our roads. How do we decide which roads are going to be done? Well, first of all, we look at the roads, and we look at the volume of traffic and the conditions of the roads. And we look at them in conjunction to see how that goes. We look to spread our road projects throughout all ends of town. So we don't want to do it all on one end or all on the other end. So we look to spread the money throughout the town. We look to work with our utility companies. So if the utilities are coming out, we look to do our roads at the same time. Or sometimes this becomes difficult because, unfortunately, sometimes if there's a water main break or an emergency, we don't know what's going to happen, and they could be out there, so we have to change our plans. Also, unfortunately, sometimes the utility companies don't have a good planning document, and they don't tell us when they're coming. And so, or they tell us they're coming in 2010, and they don't show until 2013. So we have those roads that we know they need to be done, but we don't do them maybe on the exact schedule because of that. We also look to see that we try to get the biggest bang for our buck, because roads are, we're looking at $4 million right now of road projects, and you're going to get 10 miles worth of roads. And right now, doing roads is very inexpensive. It's a really great time to do roads. So you can imagine when it was a lot more expensive, you weren't even getting that much for your bang for your buck. What we've been doing over the course of the last 10 years is that probably 10 years ago, when we weren't really keeping up with our roads as much, we had a lot of roads, and I'll call them just D and F roads, because it's simple terms, D and F roads. So over the last 10 years, we've really been trying to hit roads that have a lot of volume on it, really bad condition, and a big bang for our buck, and all around town. And on this map, and when maybe we're going to try to improve it, there's a lot of green on the map that we showed you. And these are all the roads that we have done between 2004 and 2015, 37.6 miles of it. And it's just all the green areas on this map. And that's what we've done. Most of it has been through the town funding, but we have had grant funding from the state, a few of the roads, so that is included in this too. What we look for now, what's important is that once we've got most of these D and F roads complete, we look now at our B and C roads, B's and C's. And what's important to us is that we try to look and make sure that these B and C roads don't turn to D and F roads, which will cost us a lot more money to fix and fix. So right now, we have in the highlighted areas is what we are looking at for the next $4 million worth of road projects. And I'm just going to give maybe the areas of what we're talking about. So where do I start, Russ, on this? So we're looking like the Lake Garda area. We're looking at the West District area.
Can you
No,
point
I'm
them out
sorry.
to us,
What was
Russ?
that?
Which is, just on the map, can you just tell us which is?
Okay.
On your left-hand side of the map,
Yep.
there's a small circle. That's the Lake Garda area.
Okay.
Why don't you just move that left?
Got to do the. Sure.
Yep. Thank you.
That would, we're going to get us started in the springtime. We're going to get up to the lake. During the summer, we're going to hit the village area from Garden Street and all the roads in between Route 4 and Meadow Road.
That's summer?
The last section of Meadow Road is going to be included from just west of the Redstone Bridge, coming up to Route 10. We stopped our paving about 3-4 years ago, and we did that whole Meadow Road area because the water company had a water main replacement. Now, while we're in this area, we're going to finish that and repave that whole. So we're going to basically do from Meadow Road to Route 4, all the streets in between, Mill, Maiden, Hobart, Winchell Smith, Pearl, Garden itself, and Porter Road. And then in the fall, we're going to move over to Unionville and work on Cedar, Canterbury, Larchwood, Burke, and Virginia. That will get us through this year. And that is up on the top of the map. Off of 167 West Avon Road. In that area. That's for this year's plan.
And then why don't you be just the areas, one thing that we're cautious about is that I think this is the group for the next year, that it's pretty much set in stone unless something happens. The rest of the roads that we're talking about, they could happen, it could happen in the spring, it could happen in the fall. Russ is going to say what we plan on doing, but things can happen that change the priority. But the purpose is that the 4 million is going to hopefully take care of all of these roads, but one may happen a little later or a little, or earlier. So why don't you hit the next ones?
As you know, for the past couple of years, we've been working diligently with the gas company and getting gas extensions completed. We've been working in the West District area, Oak Ridge, Chafee, Westview Terrace, and we're still in discussions with the gas company on when they're going to complete that loop coming down to New Britain Avenue through Oak Ridge. So that's on our list of, once they're done, we want to get in there and get that done because the road is patched up right now. So that's an area that is on our immediate radar. We're looking at the Oakland Gardens area, get that on the list. Looking at Pinnacle Road area, off of Route 6, getting that area, getting that up. We're also looking back off of 177 in Unionville, doing Sylvan, Edgewood, Progress, Sanford, getting that area taken care of. And then we'll be starting to get into additional roads from there. Looking back into Lake Garda after that, finishing up the sections that aren't done this year. And what we've done is gone through and I would say within the next 3 years, we should be pretty much caught up with our D and F roads. Those are we're grading, giving you a D road is a grade. And we can start back in on our B and C roads thereafter. We've been very diligent working with the water company and their extensions. The gas company is a big proprietary item right now to get them completed in as many areas as we can. We meet with the gas company. We have one big collaborative meeting with them to go over our paving schedule, what we're looking at to make sure it coincides with their paving, their gas extension. Some of these roads may change based on that because, as Kathy said, their service delivery areas change based on how many requests they get from a survey. So we'll pull a road off and we won't pave it because it just doesn't make sense to go and pave it and have them dig it up and so everyone knows that a few years ago we had some issues, a number of years ago, about coordinating. that's what we work diligently with, not so we have planned events take place, but we can't help when the water main break or gas main breaks, things happen.
But basically, basically you're planning so that you're not doing it twice,
Exactly.
you know, which,
Everybody wins at that.
yeah, absolutely.
Like with the gas company up on Westview Terrace, they were done on Westview Terrace. There are still about 40% of the homes that haven't connected yet. So we're holding off paving there just because they're going to go back into the road. But they're not like the sewer. We extend everything when we put a sewer and we extend it right to the property line, get it out of the right of way. Water company, gas company, they put the main in and they don't do any extensions. Fear that somebody, because it's a shallower utility, that they'll just go and tie in and they won't know. So they go back into the road and dig it up. So we're kind of holding off. We have, ears on the ground and people are diligently looking to connect. So we're waiting to get a larger number of people connected before we actually pave that area.
Thank you for coming tonight. What do you typically pave over roads that have been dug up by a utility? For more specifically, like Woodruff right now is being dug up quite a bit, and there's what is it going to stay that way for a while? Does it get a grading, and does that have any effect on the grading? I guess is what I'm asking.
Absolutely, it does. Keep monitoring the patches and what they're doing. We'll come back through and we'll reclaim it or mill it down to a certain level, depending on how much blacktop is there, and repave the whole road. But of course, that all comes into play.
So it's not automatic that you just repave a road if it gets dug up like
No,
that?
Scott-
Because I noticed it's not on this list, and I just happened to notice that road is.
Scott and I will
Okay.
evaluate what method is best for you, so we get the best bang for our buck.
Okay.
The longevity out of the road. Woodruff is a road that is in the area, but what we do is you'll notice we'll clump roads together. So we're not doing, for instance, we're not going to do Lake Street in Unionville and send them over and do,
Glen Gardens.
Oh, yeah.
Gardens, then go back and do something off of 167. It's a cheaper price doing everything all in the same area. The more blacktop you can put down in one area with the less moves, the save money.
I think, one of the things that we've talked about, and they show the list, is that there's a lot of roads. And it's, again, Scott and Russ do a really good job of trying to prioritize it and getting the best bang for our buck. But again, with 120 miles of roads, and now I think we're up, if I didn't say it before, is that we're actually, how we've been funding them over the last couple of years, we're up to about once every 30 years. So we're not really even funding it to a 20 to 25 year thing. And before we started funding it at this level, we were probably doing it at half that. We were probably, I think we've said, once every 50 or 60 years. That was the funding we were supporting our roads. So we've doubled what we had been doing, but there's still quite a few roads. And again, Scott and Russ with different ideas, like the Meadow Road, we got a real big bang out of the buck because that was a nice flat road and they were able to recycle the road.
yeah.
And so we got a lot of road done for a little bit, not that much money. But some of these roads are really long, long roads, and they just are expensive. And so we keep on, I think when we'll work on this map a little bit, because I think the public will be interested in it. It's hard with the map, but just to show how much we actually have done over the last 10 years, there is quite a bit. And we keep on with this, if you guys support, and the public supports a $4 million bond, I think that, and it makes, I think, a lot of sense at this point in time, just because of the price of doing the roads. You're really getting a good bang for your buck. And so if you were going to do a bonding, it's a good time to do it now and do a little bit larger of one. We've done $3 million in the past, but a $4 million one now. And one of the roads we talked about is it's the Pinnacle area, and the Pinnacle area definitely needs to be done, but it's a really long road, and so it's somewhat costly. It's costly. So we wanted to include that in. So we did do the $4 million. I'm requesting that.
And where are you with the 3 million that we had? Are you done with that? Have you used that all?
We have about 300,000.
Left,
We have enough to get going this spring.
Pardon?
We have enough to get going this spring.
Okay. And does, I mean, I know I've heard you talk before about how the winter is and how that affects, and in the springtime, you go out and you look and see, you know, has anything changed? Because this is certainly movable, you know, if you see something that after the winter is just so bad, you have to readjust. But does it, I'd like to think that this winter it wasn't as bad, so we're hopeful that, well, okay. We like that, which also gives you more time to do roads. It's not just June and, you know, but if it's nicer weather, you can get out, I'm sure, and get started. So that gives you a longer time frame. I mean, then it's using your manpower for that, but it's, and we know that that's all delicate too. I mean, if you're pulling them to do roads instead of something else, it's, something else gives, but it's just wonderful to be able to get back on track as we have these last few years, to be able to do some of the roads that were so needed. And it is an expensive task, but it's certainly one that we have to keep track of and do. And so it's nice to see we've come down below the 30, or, so.
Making progress.
Yes, oh yeah.
Joe's word is always strive.
Yes, yes. Questions? Yes, go ahead.
So, as I'm understanding that this $4 million bond issue is really looking to give you enough money to do 4 years' worth of work. What's the spend per year?
Million, right?
$600,000 to $700,000.
That's right now, so this is going to be an increase in that?
Yeah, this would be an increase. But again, like you said, it depends on the roads that you do, you know, and what the cost would be for those roads. So this may actually, you may, because of the price of asphalt done by Clemens right now, you may even get more. You may end up spending $600,000 or $700,000 doing more roads and have money left over. Or actually, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You might do more roads and spend less than $600,000 or $700,000, and actually, you know, because but too much is based on the price of oil. Obviously, the price of oil is low right now, so the price of bitumen is affordable right now.
So, Joe, I know the way we've done this before is we have a bond referendum to approve the $4 million if that's what the voters would like. But then you're not actually borrowing that money. You're borrowing that money as we spent it?
Right, and actually, I was waiting for the question, because
It was coming.
Yeah.
$3 million of this was built into the last
Yeah.
presentation that I gave you. And you're correct. What we would do is, in that presentation last month, $1 million of this would probably get issued this summer, because we're down to our last $300,000. You mentioned we'll probably spend $600,000 to $700,000. So we'd do $1 million this summer, and then the next bond sale that came along, we'd probably throw another $1 million in there, or you know, again, depending on how their cash flow is going, we would drag these sales out probably in the next 3 years, 4 years.
Okay.
One of the things that I've asked, and because of how the price of oil, I was hoping that we could get it done, you know, early
Quicker.
when the price is low. But unfortunately, is that it's not really some of it is our manpower, because we prep and do a lot of the things, but there's just only so many companies that put the paving that gets done. So, because my thought is that you want to spend it as much as you can early on with the price the way it is, but really, it's going to be, we usually spend about $600,000, but I think that we're going to try to push it to spend even more than that, maybe like $1 million, just because the price is where it's at, and see how much we can get done.
All right. You know, my second question has to do with, you know, the sort of order of things here. The map lays it out quite nicely. I was especially encouraged to see the roads off of Lovely Street are hit here. And in particular, I've noticed that Sanford Avenue is a mess. And I think it has to do with the home construction that's going on there. But that road in particular is nearly undrivable. And so I was a little bit disappointed to find out that area wasn't on your first year list. So if there's some way that Sanford Avenue can be looked at as a special case, because I think it's deteriorated well beyond most of these other roads.
We're working with the developer Had to come down and extend the water main. There was a 2-inch water main that fed the road before the 5-home subdivision went in. They had to come down and tear, basically, the road's only about 21 feet wide. They had to ended up tearing up the whole road because it was in such poor condition, but with only 6 or 7 homes on it, didn't really rate high enough for repaving. When they came back and put an 8-inch water main in to provide fire service and domestic service for all the homes, it basically blew the road up. And they had to run the gas main up as well. So we're working with the contractor and developer so some of that cost will be recouped through that.
Good, thank you.
So we are working on that with that, so we're on top of it.
Well, I was going to ask with that, don't developers, isn't...
For a portion of it, it's, to be quite honest, the road wasn't their issue, being the shape it was in. So we're going to work out
A proportionate
a
amount.
proportionate share of who owns how much of the road for paving to get it redone.
Well, I mean, if the development weren't there and you didn't need to put in as much as you did,
We would
you, well, but it's nice to see that the developer take some ownership.
Absolutely, oh, absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. They're not free and clear by any means.
Amy?
I just have a question on funding. I know traditionally we do this via bonding, but we have so many upcoming expenses, most of which are going to be bonding. When you put this together, did you at all think of doing a small portion in cash appropriations?
We actually, with this, I think we looked at our capacity and things like that, and that's why we decided that it would probably be better to bond it. The one thing that we did kind of tinker around a little bit, it was not the roads, but maybe the fire truck that we just talked about.
I'm just
Yeah.
to, I mean, I know
know.
that we have a lot of much bigger bonded items, but if we can ship a little bit away of it and pay a little in cash in some form, I don't know, I personally would be an advocate of at least evaluating that. I know that Joe does much more evaluation than I ever will, so, yeah, I
Well,
guess
we
my
can look
question
at it,
is,
yep.
yeah,
Why don't we-
either look at it and see if it's even worth,
Yep.
you know, are we going to save any significant money if we at least consider some cash appropriation?
Okay, yep, thank you. We'll look at that.
And even though you know there are only so many companies out there, will you still reach out if, in fact, the year is longer because of weather, or it's possible to bring in a group to get more done?
Right, well, we have
You know.
subcontracts.
That's what I was,
we're on
subcon.
bid for. We'll bring in contractors to help us out with further roads. Problem is, with the vendor-in-place paving program, contractors bid on it through the state, which is what we use for our bid to utilize, get the best price that we can. They're in a high demand, so we'll prep our roads as fast as we always do. And they'll come in, the more we have prep, the better off we are to keep them here. But once they go, it's hard getting them back. So that's the biggest hard game that we play, is coordinating. Because they have to, they're trying to make every town happy. They have the DOT to make happy, and the DOT ends up with, all of a sudden they found $2 million and they have to pay 95. Well, boom, they call and our local roads take a second seat to. That's just the way it is. So that's the competition portion.
Okay. Other questions? Okay.
All right, the next one is our highway and grounds. And that would be on C1, and you can see that on the first year, 16-17, we have $560,000. That is $40,000 for fields and playground equipment. That will be funds to replace the existing playscape at Tungus Mead. We do have a playscape plan for our parks. Scott, how old is that playscape?
The original playscape was 1994, thereabouts. Some additions were done in 2003.
So it's ready for, to be replaced. We have $85,000 for a truck lift replacement, $185,000 for a dump truck in the highway department, and that's our ones that we used for snow. And a large ticket item is $250,000 for a road sweeper, and that will be for a replacement of our existing road sweeper. based on the DEP and a lot of the regulations, we are required to be sweeping our roads. And again, it looks like it's becoming more and more, not less and less, that the regulations are. This is a replacement. Scott, the road sweepers, we have two?
Yes.
And the age in this one that we're replacing?
The one we are hopefully replacing in 1989, oldest three-wheel AP. It's on a second motor. It's a hydrostatic drive, which can be driven by transmissions, which run hydraulic fluid, both of the motors. Basically, right now, we keep it at the flat areas. Power to get up steep grades. It's been baby the longest to try to keep it moving.
So that is a big ticket item, but it does need to be replaced, as Scott
How old is the other
described.
one?
The other one is in 1994.
Oh, new baby, huh?
Can I ask a question about, what exactly does a road sweeper do? How
You'll
does
see
it?
it out early, as soon as the weather breaks, you'll see it, we sweep the whole town. We sweep all the gutters, we use it during the road construction to keep those roads clean during the building process. We sweep the parades both end of town, and we'll sweep through Farmington Center and Unionville Center about once a month just to keep it safe.
And what is it taking off the road? Is it sand, oil? I mean,
Yeah, car parts, they'll get plastic, they'll get, walk the gutter sometime, and you'll see everything.
and then so that debris or whatever it may be, where does it go when it gets swept?
We'll take that out in tons of speed and compost it.
How does it get picked up? Does it suck it up at the same time it's sweeping?
It has
It's like a
run-
vacuum in,
It has run
Oh.
through the conveyor system.
so it's not just moving it from point A to point B, it's taking it.
Stored inside the.
Got it.
It's not the dump truck.
Got it.
All the way.
It's like a vacuum cleaner.
Thank you.
Just curious, though, we don't use the sand anymore that we used to use, so.
No, you would be surprised at what you can tell, when it's still there for road ground.
Salt?
I mean, the other stuff, I
No way in
understand that.
comparison to what we used to do.
No.
Oh,
But a lot of the times, we used to send 2 trucks with 1 sweeper to try to keep up with the sand.
Mhm.
That'll send the sweeper out by itself. He can pick up 5 yards of material by himself.
Mhm.
And actually haul it.
well, it's good, we should have more longevity then, right?
What was the part where you mentioned it's mandated more and more? What's the mandate part of it?
The DEP and the EPA have come up with a stormwater management system from 2004 is when it was implemented. And it basically mandates that we maintain our roadways, our parking lots, and storm systems, our outfalls, to make sure that they're free of pollutants. We monitor them. We sample 6 outfalls every year in industrial, residential, and commercial discharge areas. This year, we've been working diligently with many towns. The CCM has helped out, working to fight against some of the requirements. As Kathy said, the new permit was 10 years old. It was 10 years. 2 years ago, they've been working to update it. The first version they put out, DEP, was basically that we were to sweep every town-owned parking lot, street, prior to a rainstorm, after the rainstorm, and once a week minimum.
What did we say? We had to calculate. It was like $1 million, right?
Wow.
It cost us approximately $5,000 a year to do it based on that. It was something.
Here's one of our unfunded mandates we can talk about.
But how do you predict, I got to sweep every parking lot and every road every week. And as you asked, John, what are you really picking up? Well, we're doing it monthly, and we're picking up maybe 15 yards of material in a month.
Yeah.
What are we going to pick up every week?
Yeah.
And what is the purpose? In our catch basins yearly, we're doing at least half the town every year. And years ago, we would pick up, when we were using sand, we would pick up 4,000 yards of sand every spring. And it would take us about 6 weeks of sweeping time with 4 trucks, 2 guys, plus two rental sweepers. Now it's, about 4 weeks with two trucks, 2 sweepers. And that's max, we're done. 120 miles of road plus parking lots, and we're done. And we come up with about, 500 yards of material at best. At best.
Wow.
And our outfalls now are much cleaner without using the sand. And we would have plumes of sand, into the brooks, into the streams and ponds, which you don't see anymore. They've all dissipated. So on one aspect, I think it's a good program, but I think they've gone over the top. If we do find something, we'll find a lot of E. coli, we chase it, we clean it, we follow up, we're required to follow up. Storm drains, we'll have the treatment plant go and clean that storm drain with the $500,000 back truck that we bought a couple of years ago, and we're still paying for it. But we'll go out, but that's part of our due diligence is to clean up, trying to figure out what's going on, so we're not polluting our waters anymore. And on that aspect, it's a great thing. But with this revised permit, part of it was, if there was one aspect was, they wanted us to sample the Farmington River. And if we found something in the Farmington River, they wanted us to go back and try and find out where it came from. Well, how do I, go and figure out what Burlington has done? Someone in Burlington and chase Burlington and Canton and Hartford,
Right.
all the way up to the reservoir.
Mhm.
But this was what was written into the permit. It was so over the top that we just, now they're doing this back saying, well, you handle it.
Yeah.
But I don't permit anyone else out of town. I can't permit somebody in Burlington or Canton. So we spent a lot of time basically trying to let them know, and then not just Farmington, but many municipalities, that the requirements are just so far over the top that it's just untouchable.
That was the
We've got it
DEP.
done. So we've worked very hard collectively, and there's more stringent requirements, and we're meeting them. We'll be able to meet them, but it will be still coming. They still are pushing to have that done. And I understand the intention, but the mechanism just, it's intangible.
Well, some is let towns think for themselves. The ones that are doing a good job, don't penalize them by, penalizing us. Because we're doing a good job, we're taking care of our business, and mandate that's more money. It's just not right.
Part of our inspections, once we get our samples back, we've gone and knocked on businesses in that area and said, okay, we're just, we're out here, here's what we're doing. Talk to them. What do you know anything about it? And it's worked out well. We meet a lot of good people who are willing to help. I think it's a good program. I believe in it, but it's got to be more realistic. You got to think about what you're actually trying to solve. They threw a lot of stuff and hope something would stick.
So you can see in the out years for the highway and grounds that, there's quite a lot of equipment, different things at the schools, like the high school bleachers, the track, storage buildings, but we do have an extensive plan. We've been doing a really good job over the last couple of years trying to stick with the plan. The plan moves around, and sometimes, something we decide that something has more of a priority than something else. We push things back, we push things forward. But in general, we try to stick to the plan, especially with the larger pieces of equipment, our dump trucks and, that are $190,000. We try to get one every year, so we keep up with that. We've been doing a really much better job of that. And that's in the out years.
Any questions?
The only, I see the high school bleachers on here. Is that the high school grounds would not have anything to do with the high school building committee? Is that
Well,
fair to say, or?
Again, we've applied for a grant for that too, for the STEEP grant, and again, that's why it's out there in the out years too. So,
Okay.
Decide what could happen there.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay.
All right. Westwoods. As you know, Westwoods is now under the Public Works, the maintenance is under the Public Works Department and Scott and Russ. We've been working on a 5-year plan, a new 5-year plan for Westwoods. So we have most of the items you can see on page C3 and some of the out years. I would imagine that you're going to see this populated a little bit more in the next year or two as we have a time to really go through it and work on some of the out year items, as Scott and Russ have a time to analyze some of it. But for this year, we have $40,000 for replace an existing sprayer to be used as the maintenance at the golf course, and $60,000 for maintenance building improvements, and that will be funds to replace the clubhouse roof and complete electrical and structural code updates, which is well overdue. That needs to be done. I don't know if anyone's been up there and have seen the building, but it's well overdue. And then you can see in the out years, we have some various items from vehicles, mowers, and things of that nature.
What is a sprayer?
It's basically a tow behind. This one is actually a proven piece of equipment that has a tank on it, 160-gallon tank with different chemicals in it. One is doing weed control, fertilization. And it's got 2 arms that extend out about 20 feet. So one person can do the golf course pretty much a day, maybe a day and a half.
Okay. I figured, but thank you.
Any other questions
Any
on
other questions?
Westwoods?
I mean, just a real quick one. Kathy, last year you didn't project any expenses, and now it's 10,000, and you said the roof it's long overdue. Just can you expand on
Yep.
what's changed?
Yeah, what has changed is how we're funding the Westwoods Golf Course, and we're not putting very much money into the golf course.
Were we in a holding pattern last year?
In a holding pattern. Oh, not for probably the last 5 or 6 years, we were in very much a holding pattern. Really, the only things that we were replacing at Westwoods is the mowers.
Okay.
So, again, I anticipate that you're going to see more items probably on the 5-year plan when we really have an opportunity to really go through it in more detail and see about the 5-year strategic plan and the maintenance and things of that nature.
How old is the roof?
That's the original.
The original?
You gotta help me with
What is the original?
Oh, probably 25 years.
Okay. Is it leaking, or it's just the end of its useful life?
Yeah, it's tired.
And I'm assuming this is because now that it's in the budget itself, it can handle it rather than being a standalone, which didn't make the money that you expected it to fund itself.
Right.
Is that?
Exactly. It's being funded through the general fund, and so we're doing really true cap 5. We're working towards getting a true 5-year capital plan, where in the past, it wasn't a true year capital plan. So that's why I think you may see some different things, and when we really have a chance to really look at it in more detail. But we try to at least get some of the major items out, put in there.
Good. Any questions? John?
So, one of the things that has to happen here is that there has to be a good amount of coordination between the recreation aspects of Westwoods, the running the golf course, and the physical needs that are being supplied into this new budget. So, for example, if the golf course was deciding to upgrade their restaurant, they would need you to put in some restaurant changes here. How does that coordination happen?
We work with Nancy Parent, along with Kathy and Funding. Anything that will go on up there, we would work just like we do with other departments.
So they would be discussing what their plans are, and then you'd have to
Match up our-
transform those plans.
What our needs are with their needs to make sure everything's coinciding. It's just, I compare it to paving our roads. We work with utility companies, we work with all our other departments hand in hand. And we wouldn't do anything without talking with them on the recreation side to make sure that what we did doesn't get undone.
Right.
We already work very closely with recreation when it comes to maintenance. The ball fields need to be done on certain days, the soccer fields need to be done, big tournaments coming up, rentals, so it's an ongoing process with us.
And that's, sorry, I was going to say, and that's why we actually moved it into the Public Works Department, because really it's more of a match of how we do things townwide anyway.
Right. Now the equipment I see listed here, is this equipment that's dedicated to the golf course? So let's just say, for instance, a lawnmower can be used either at the golf course or somewhere else. Do you have shared equipment? Or is all the equipment for the golf course?
Some things are shared, but this sprayer that we're looking for will be shared. We do not use it as much on the soccer field as it's used to get the golf course. Mower's very tough. You mow the golf course, you mow with the gloves every other day, you mow the fairways every day. To go borrow a mower from them is slim in them. It's usually the other way around. If we have a mower coming offline in the Parks Department, if they need something, they'll fit that bill, we'll ship it up there first.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Quickly, we'll just go through the treatment plant. Thanks, Scott. We're good. Next item we'll just quickly go through is the treatment plant. That's the O for other appropriations. That's being funded through the water pollution controls budget, not through the general fund. But we usually give an update on that. If you remember on the treatment plant, what we tend to do there is because fixing anything.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye, Scott.
Thank you.
Doing any repairs is very, very costly. So most of these accounts you see every year, and it's banking of the money so that you're banking it and then you're able to do different things. So it's our typical repairing the sewer lines, our pump station improvements. Those are pump stations outside in the town. We have 21 of them? 19 pump stations. Plant upgrade and improvements, this $600,000, this will be funds for the engineering fees for the water pollution control. So that's the project that's going to be taking place. That's going to be paying for the fees for the engineers. And that's, you can see that that's out in the out years. Plant equipment replacement, these will be used for minor repairs at the water pollution control plant. There will still be minor repairs when the upgrade is taking place, but again, it's more of a banking of the money. If we don't use it, it sits in the account. The rolling stock replacement, that's used for two things. That's to bank money for a lot of the large pieces of equipment, and also it's used for the lease payment for what piece of? The backhaul. We pay it out of that account. So the water pollution control, we do, I think, Russ and the Water Pollution Authority does a really, really great job of balancing their money. They bank money so that they can pay for expenses. They pay cash for most everything that they do. And this is, I don't know, we maybe started doing this 10 years ago, this approach of really just these accounts, and it's the same accounts every year. And we're able to do, when we do those sewer lines, you know, I think of the one in Garden Street where we went in and we put the new lines all underground and they took the money out, and then they were were you in Unionville that you did it down there too?
No, we did all the lining
In the village with the old sewers, and that came out of the repairing of the sewer lines. So that's the other appropriations for the sewer authority.
Questions? Okay. Oh, John.
So the money for the engineering fees, is that included in the 57 million for the plant upgrade?
No.
Okay, so those two, but that's for the same job, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're basically doing is the design work and paying for it separately, directly out of their funds?
We're doing, it's twofold. The design work before it went out to bid, so we paid for that
Right.
already.
Yep.
And now to manage the project, and it's really not, I guess design isn't really, it's more for the fees to manage the project on a day-to-day basis, be the person that's up there making sure that the plans are being followed. It's our consultants. That's the fees for this.
Now, working this through my head, I'm trying to figure out how the other towns are paying their fair share of this. Is it just because it comes through the user fees?
How they pay, they'll pay for, their fees are based on their usage and what they bought. Easiest way, they bought a piece of pie, a percent. And their fee will be based on the final cost of the project, less any grants that we've received from the Clean Water Fund. And that's what their share will be based on.
But aren't they paying a proportion?
And they're paying a proportion of this as well.
Because of the user fees on the individual houses in those towns?
Correct.
Okay.
Based on flow.
All right.
We don't know how they're going to fund it at their end of it. You know, we will bill them. What we'll do is we'll get a total price, total cost of the project, say it comes to $65 million or $67 million.
With this included in.
And then we'll subtract out the grants, we'll come to a net dollar amount, and then based on their percentage of the project, of their share of the project, we'll get an assessment that they'll have to pay over the next 20 years.
But it seems to me that the funds that are being paid for out of the other, those are being paid for by individual homes' usage fees. And commercial, yeah. Whereas the money that we bond is going to be paid by the individual towns, not the individual users.
We're going to charge,
We're going to charge them for this.
we're going to charge them for this.
That's right. But if 10% of the project is in Avon, the 10% that's part of these cash flows is being paid by the individual users of the sewers in Avon.
Right.
Whereas 10% of the bond is being paid by the town of Avon, not by the individual customers.
I'm not sure
No.
how they charge,
No.
how they're going to pay. So, in a lot of the towns, it's up to the individual town how they get the money to pay us back.
Okay.
for this. And we don't charge their people in their town's user fees. We charge the towns directly. So
Okay.
every year, the tax office sends a bill to the town of Avon and says, your share of the cost of operating the sewer system this year is $200,000. Or Farmington, this is your share of the cost this year. And then the same thing will happen with this project, is once we net out the project and determine what their share of the assessment is, we will give them a schedule, say, for the next 20 years, you owe us $200,000 a year. And how they get that $200,000, they can do it through taxes, they can do it through assessing their people. That's up to them. We don't control that part of it. We just tell them, this is what you owe us for this project.
All right.
Right.
And what about UConn?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing.
That's a percentage again
Correct.
of usage.
Same thing.
So it's based on flow, based on flow.
Okay.
We have different funding sources, how we're paying for the project, but we just send the town the one bill, and then they pay us back. And it's so all these different costs are added in to UConn or the different towns.
Right now, as an individual user of the system, I receive a sewer fee
In Farmington.
in Farmington, and I just assumed that people in Avon would have received the same sort of a bill. They may, but it's up to Avon.
Larger bill, for some reason. Yeah, it's true. I pay more for the sewer in Avon than I did when I was in Farmington.
Okay.
I know there's another town that does it for their taxes.
Right.
They don't charge an individual user fee, they charge the entire town.
Oh, even if you don't have sewer?
Right, exactly. So
Oh.
that's become a point of contention
Interesting.
in their towns that
Don't think about it.
Then everyone would want to hook up, wouldn't they? Okay.
Don't even think about it.
Other questions? Okay.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Did I miss Nancy's? Next, we have Nancy. Let's see if I can find it.
Huh?
The energy just takes a nosedive.
It is freezing in here.
It's cold.
Yes.
Keeps you awake.
This up here anyway.
Yeah. So when we do our budgets, we'll have to keep the heat on longer.
You cold?
Yes.
Oh. For some reason, I'm feel hot.
You're in the hot
Hot
seat.
seat. Everyone knows Nancy Parent.
Hi, welcome.
Nancy has two items on the 16-17. The first one is somewhat, it's a new item, but an interesting item that has come through some of the social service outreach and some of the things that the community center has had an interest in the residents. And Nancy, why don't you talk about that? It's the exercise equipment.
It's actually something I'm really excited about. This year, we got a grant at the senior center, and we had a donation of a USEP, which is a specialized exercise piece of equipment for seniors for fall prevention, and it takes off some of the load. It's not the same as being at a gym. And for our first week, we had over 65 people sign up to use it. So it was really very exciting
Great.
that we had such a great interest, but obviously 65 people trying to use 2 pieces of is going to be very difficult. So we asked for funds so that we could really make that back room, the recreation room at the senior center, the one that
The windows?
overlooks
Yeah.
the windows, into more of an exercise, with more exercise equipment just to be used as a place for seniors to exercise. Our grant we got through NCAA, we've been contractually hiring an exercise physiologist to help them exercise the right way, because it's just more important that they do things, for fall prevention and things like that. So we're just really excited. We were so excited that we had so many new faces in the building, and we wanted to be able to kind of build it a little bit. Some of our neighboring towns are kind of really some rivals. We're what they have, but it's been very successful, and it definitely improves balance as well as health for the seniors.
Oh, okay, good.
And what is NCAA?
North Central Area Agency on Aging.
Okay, thank you.
And the next item is $25,000. This is banking, and I'm sure if you've been over to the Senior and Community Center, the front sidewalk is in need of repair, and we put money in last year. We thought that was going to be enough to fix it. It would be to do a small portion of it, but we've added another $25,000 so we can replace the whole sidewalk. It's I think with all the flooding that occurred there, some of it has gotten it's uneven. There's one very bad section, but I think our goal is, with Russ and the engineering department, is to replace the whole front and have that. So that's banking of the $25,000 for that. And then in some of the out years, we have some of the projects that we've talked about is some Stonehouse renovations. We still have, which we've been working on, is again, we've been doing some more work on our never-ending our spray park. So that's something that we are trying to, Nancy and her staff have been working on more of the details that go along with the spray park, and some renovations still at Staples House. And I think that's about it.
Any questions?
I just think the exercise equipment is fabulous, and I love that 65 people signed up. That's it's a testament to you that many people are paying attention and are coming in there. I think it's great. I'm thrilled to be able to help our senior community.
Yeah, and it's great that we were able to get a grant too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It worked out really good. So good. Good.
I'm sorry, Kathy, just a quick, when would the sidewalk repair take place?
When did they talk about it?
Starting in the spring.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I put
great.
it out this spring, and work this summer, fall.
Okay.
Nancy, how many
Other
machines will there be?
We're not exactly sure. It ended up being 25,000, so I think we could probably get 5, depending upon. We do want to switch it up. We were actually have been going to different senior centers to look, because we want to have some for sitting, for people who have hands, like incumbent bike, and so probably 5. But if we get 1 or 2 of the more, well, it might be 4.
Okay.
Still would be a nice,
No, fabulous.
nice piece of equipment.
Question, John?
So, as you recall from last year, I'm a big supporter of the water park. I'm disappointed to see that it's been pushed off another year. So last year when we had a plan, we had it set up for the 17-18 year. Now it's 18-19. I'd like to see it 16-17. Is there a way for that to get accelerated from where it is?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we pushed it out one more year because of a couple of things, is that we have the components of it and things like that, but for the whole recreation of about how exactly it ran, I was not totally up to speed on how the logistics of it. Did you need a guard out there? Some of those things, and so that's why I think we're getting pretty close to being able to do it. I mean, again, if it was a big push, we could change the priorities and probably figure out how to do it quicker, but that's why it was pushed out another year, is just because of the fact that kind of the logistics of the whole thing. And then one of the things that when we spoke with Russ and the area, where one of the things that, again, when you think about it, is that where all that water goes and how the drainage system of it is, and do our pipes, can they have the water, can it handle the water? And so that was one of the things about the location, was our pipes big enough and some of that. So I know that you guys are still working on it, and I think we're pretty close to it, figuring out how it could be done. But again, we just set priorities, and that's why it got pushed out.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
You can have them come on up.
Town manager.
Hey, Brian. Good. Does everyone know?
Welcome, Brian.
He's our technology
Guru.
Does a wonderful job for us. On the town manager's account, C3, we have quite a few items in 16, 17. I'll just briefly go through them, and then we can ask Brian some details on some of the technology. So we have $50,000 with technology improvements. I do know what is slated for this, which, again, I learned a little bit today. It seems like our equipment is brand new, but it's to upgrade the council chambers audio-visual. So our projector and some different things, that's what that's slated, and Brian can talk a little bit more about that. Also, this TV, maybe some things up here, but it is really out to date. Also, we have a lot of issues that now with, not conference calling, when you teleconferencing and different things, our speaker system, if you have a meeting, how to call in. So some of these things that need to be upgraded for this room. So that's one thing. The town hall improvements, we've been banking money for quite some, well, we always seem to be banking money, but over the last couple of years, we've been banking money, and the objective of that money is the outside parking lot. The parking lot, the curbing, the paving. If you see down a few items down, you'll see that we have an exterior lighting project. That's being funded through rebate funds and grant funds. We have not spent that money yet. That's $375,000. That's going to also be used for the lights in this parking lot. So it's kind of a project between, we've been holding off of obviously doing the lights in this one until we can do the parking lot and do a whole big project with it. So those go, the 375 is just, that's not just lights for here. That's lights for all the school parking lots and things. That's just one small portion. The telephone system is in my budget, but that is for the senior and the police station. That is to upgrade their old system that we can't get parts for anymore. We upgraded our system here maybe two or 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And so we've been holding off on the police and senior center, but it's really time for that. It's, we can't get parts for the system anymore. We have $400,000 for the Farmington High School for the schematic designs, and we had $100,000 for last year, so that's $500,000 for that. In Paula's area, we're continuing a very popular program for the land records re-indexing, so that has been very successful, and so we have another $30,000 in that. And then unfortunately, we're back in the cycle again for real estate reval, and so again, you'll see that for the next 2 years for reval. In the out years, really, we always see some things for the town hall, for renovations and different things inside that are going on.
Bless you.
Bless you, Erica. And that's pretty much it. And technology in the out years. And Brian, why don't you talk about a little bit about what you see for our technology and our technology plan?
So the $50,000 for this year, we're planning on doing something in this room. To upgrade the technology in this room. We're also planning on doing some of the conference rooms in this building too. We have conference room A. There's a conference room up in the engineering offices where we don't really have any technology in those rooms at all. Let's get some projectors or smart boards in there and be able to do some teleconferencing stuff from inside of those rooms as well. The out years on those are some of the projects that those include are, we have a fiber optic cable going from this building to the library, the Stables House, and up to the high school. It's probably over 20 years old at this point. Useful life, it's 30 years. But we did some testing on it, found really we're pushing it past the limit on distance and speed that we're sending across it. And really we're getting a lot of drop packets going back and forth between the two buildings, and we should upgrade it at some point. other years out are,
No,
we have
is-
some, you know, we did a VMware project 2 years ago with us in the high school. Probably in 18, 19, we probably should be looking at doing some upgrades to that system, just so it doesn't get out of date and we have to replace the whole thing again. Some of those other years, we're looking at network switch upgrades, and at some point, I have in there for 2019-20, looking at doing a virtual desktop infrastructure like you're doing at the high school with, you know, having servers that run the desktops instead of buying a PC for each person. And the other thing that Kathy talked about was the telephone system over at the PD and Senior Center. That's the original phone system that was put in there when the building was built in 2004.
Two. We just learned that.
Let me guess, Intertel?
Yeah.
Gotta love it. The fiber that goes between the buildings, what is that used for?
Mostly data communications. It's used for our VoIP phone system over at Staples House. It's just data at this point. Probably have, I think we have 12 strands going up to the high school. We had some of them tested, some of them don't even work. I think at this point we have 6 strands that still work.
Now,
it's kind of out of spec. It's multi-mode fiber, not single mode.
I could understand the need for that 20 years ago, when the rest of the network didn't support those types of speeds and a point-to-point contact would be necessary. Is it so necessary today? Can't you use the public internet for routing traffic and it's going to be just as fast?
No, I mean, really with the speed of our internet connection, we're talking about the amount of data that we're sending back and forth between those two places. Our whole VMware infrastructure gets replicated up to the high school every hour.
So it's a redundancy
Yeah,
situation?
I mean, we have redundant hard drives where the data is replicated between the two of them. All the backups from down at Town Hall and other buildings are getting backed up to a device up at the high school.
Okay. Makes sense.
Other question, Amy?
Just a quick one. How much money have we now banked for the town hall parking lot, and how close are we to be able to doing the project?
We have approximately $600,000 banked.
Okay, and before this?
Yeah, and we need at least 800 probably.
Okay, so would we, if,
We should be able to, we'll have enough money to do it. We won't be able to get it done this summer though, because the design is not complete. To be honest with you, the engineering department is just flat out with everything else. going
Yeah,
on
they've
now,
got a few things going
and
on.
it's probably gonna have to wait until the spring of 17.
okay, so I guess my follow-up is if 800 is realistically the minimum, why are we putting the buffer in now? Wouldn't it be?
It's not just for the parking lot
Oh, it's-
project,
okay.
yeah. So there's some internal renovations that we
Okay.
always are looking to do. One of the areas that we're looking at is the front reception area. And the other thing that we're always struggling with is space. And we use the space issues about the different offices and trying to
Right.
fit people in and moving things around and that. But the one that we are focusing on is the front hall reception area. So that's where that money would be from.
Excellent, thank you.
Other question, Amy? Meredith.
The exterior lighting replacement that was funded last year, has any of that actually been completed?
No, we're still in design. We're working now with Eversource to see what kind of rebate we would get.
Okay.
It's an expensive project. It's more expensive than we anticipated, to be honest with you. So we don't want to bid anything out until we know that we're going to have enough money and get some sort of sense on what we might get in an incentive. Basically getting more money back from the money that we're already using, that we were trying to keep that cycle going. So we are working with our consultant where, once we get that Eversource information, we'll hit the roadshow planning and zoning, because we have to do that for all the lighting, and then we should be able to bid it.
It just seems that in some areas in particular, there's just such a need for better lighting, and it feels like it's been years, and it probably has since we first talked about this rebate money and how it would be used to alleviate the situations, especially outside of the schools at night. And I know there aren't kids there, but when you're having school employees and PTO meetings and all that sort of stuff,
Right.
I think there's
Yeah,
a
with
need.
this, yeah, the outside school lighting, and I think, I'm not, there were two parts of the project for the school lighting, right? Wasn't part of it, the phase one gonna be on the building? And is
then-
that still part of your project?
Yeah, it's all in
Yeah, so,
together.
yeah.
We have the plans, they're pretty much, they're drafted, It's just a matter of bidding it. And again, the price estimates from their consultant are more than our first consultant gave us for when we actually asked for this money. So I just, we don't ever want to have a project be more money than we anticipated, so.
Right. But it is long time coming.
It feels like it's long. Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Other questions, John?
So if I'm understanding the town hall improvements, with this year's installment and this money we've banked already, that will give us more than enough money to complete the outside work. And then the rest of the money that I see here in the outer years is for interior work?
Well, we have a couple of things. Erica mentioned, so the ramp, the handicap ramp outside, that's a project that needs to be done, so that's included in there. Our elevator it's going to be need repair.
Yeah, we still have a lot of interior code issues in the town. I mean, hall, we don't have maybe the right toilet count, the right toilets, things like that. I have a list of things from many years ago that we've got to study.
The interior work, are we going to wait to accumulate the money to do all of it, or are we going to be doing it as we, throughout the years?
I think, to be honest, if that, we finally have gotten to this point with the parking lot, we've been banking money, that I
Right.
think we're gonna really sit down and look at an evaluation of kind of a next 5-year plan, to see exactly what needs to be done. Like, we have a list on the plan, there's tons of code issues that once we start going into, the handicap ramp is something, but I think whether or not we wanna be banking this level of money, do we need to do that? Or can we pay as we go type of thing,
Right.
$100,000 and do a project and do that. So I think once we get the parking lot done, knock wood, we really have hit the major areas, and there's still more to come, but I'm not sure if we're actually gonna fund it like that.
So you'll create some sort of a plan which describes what it is we're going to do it and when we're going to do it and over a period of years?
Exactly, because we have that in the out years, but now it's very, very general, because of the fact that we've been just trying to bank money to do the parking lot. That's really been our priority, and we finally seems, because it's gonna be between $800,000 and $900,000. So that's what we've been working towards.
Thank you.
Other questions? Joe, I just have one about the reval. We have money this year and then next year, for that. Do you see any other monies that we should be thinking about up front that we are going to need to take on, that we should take on now that might come down the pike in the next few years with the reval? Or is this it?
We have to do the reval every 5 years.
Mhm.
So this one will be for the October 1, 2017 list, which will go for the July 1, 2018 grant list. And then it'd be 5 years after that for the next reval, which would actually be probably twice the size of this, twice the cost of this one. This one will be a statistical one. The next one after that will be a full physical one. So that one will be larger. But in terms of revals or things of that nature, we don't really need to do anything other than this reval for the next 5 years.
Okay, then it's just whatever comes out, it's, the community, just bears it. I just wondered, because I was at a seminar Saturday, and they were talking about reval costs, and how, the communities, council take it on as you go instead of one chunk for people, and so I just wondered what that meant, if that was.
There's a whole, and actually talked to our assessor about it, there was a study committee that came out. It was made up of some assessors, some tax collectors, state legislators, and it was basically to look at property tax reform and what things that could be done. They came out with their recommendations last month, and they had some pretty major recommendation changes. For example, one of the bigger ones that would impact all of us would be that they wanted to reval every year. So you wouldn't actually have reval any longer. Every year you would just reappraise your property. You would still do like a periodic full inspection, but every year you would actually, based on market values that year, you would adjust everybody's the values of their home. The other recommendation which was actually a major recommendation, is they want to go to 100% value. Now, right now, we're 70% property value, they want to go to 100% of value. So that would actually be a big change. They had some other changes they asked, they want to do away with the motor vehicle tax,
Yes.
things like that. But in terms of real property, those were the two big things. And we were to actually go to the annual revals or annual resetting of assessments. We actually have software to do that. Most of us towns have what we call the CAM systems, assisted master appraisal systems, that could actually have the capability of doing that. Where that actually would, the cost of the average, you'd probably be hiring more people like Brian to run those systems. Because you probably would be dedicating people.
Just to that.
Just for that. Right. So right now we go out, we do inspections, somebody pulls a building permit, somebody builds a house, we go out and we inspect it, things like that. We're maybe doing, a couple hundred inspections a year. Under that scenario, we probably would be doing, we have 10,000, 11,000 properties, you're probably looking at doing 1,000 properties a year inspection. To keep up with it every 10 years. So you basically have to make sure all your properties are inspected at least once in a 10-year period. So instead of, like you said, doing it all at once, we would have probably 1,000 properties a year. So it ended up being more of a personnel, manpower, labor issue. Because, again, we have the hardware and software in place, it'd be more of the inspections and the people who input the data, keep it up to date, do the sales analysis, that type of thing. But, it'll be talked about. I'm not sure if it'll ever go anywhere, but it's going to be talked about at the state with a pretty major change.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay.
I think that's it, right, Joe? Do we hit everything? Yeah, so we hit everything. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. And thank you for all this information. I guess what I would like to say, thank you very much for the CIP budget and the information that you've given tonight. If we walk away after tonight and have some questions, we'll call you and let you know, because we want to be fully prepared with any information we think about as we're going through this before March, So if there's anything we need, we'll call you and
Perfect.
or the Board of Ed. We're going to get the information about the cut vehicles. I think it's in their budget, actually. There's a page in their budget on the vehicles.
And you probably, if you haven't, this CIP budget is, I think, $1,000 or plus or minus of the same as last year's CIP, just so you know. That's where we're working off of.
Okay. All right. Anything else anybody needs or, and please, if there's any information, let me know so we can be fully informed about what we need to, so. Thank you very much. And on that note, we have a motion on the floor. So we need to vote on the motion to consider the fiscal year 2016-17, the 5-year capital improvement plan. Right, Paula?
Yeah, it's kind of a motion that's no action.
Right.
Do you just table it?
Yeah, I would just table it or consider it.
Or withdraw it?
Yeah, withdraw it. I mean, you don't really need a motion. This was a workshop type thing. You really
Right.
need a motion to do
Okay.
what you did.
So I'll withdraw the motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And withdraw the second? And then
I will withdraw the second.
Okay. And the next thing I would do is, there's no executive session no. So I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?